What a perfect way to start your week. Good morning from whichever part of the country you are watching us from. This is KBC Channel 1 and the show on right now is Good Morning Kenya. With 49 days to go to the polls, Sakaja Johnson now has been cleared, as well as Julius Malombe, to run for the Kitui gubernatorial seat, as well as Wavinya Ndeti, who is also going to run for the Machakos gubernatorial seat after getting a lifeline from the IEBC Dispute Tribunal Committee, which was sitting at the Milimani Law Court for the last 10 days. As that was happening, Mike Sonko, who is also the Mombasa gubernatorial seat, will know his fate today. So, as we can say, it's game on. As that was happening, chaos rocked part of Nairobi yesterday at Jacaranda grounds, while differing factions clashed with police officers and different sides, making sure that there were a bit of some standoff at that particular venue yesterday. But this is something that we are not so pleased to announce, that heading to the election, we need to practice peace, peace and peace. We have got so much more, and later on we'll be talking about Kenya, democracy and international diplomacy with our guest, that is Kevin Katisia, who is an advocate, and Edward Wanyonyi, who is an international relations expert, later on in the program. But meanwhile, let me introduce part of the team, starting with Doreen. Doreen, good morning.
Good morning to you.
You had a great weekend.
Yeah, I did. And you? You did?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did.
And I know also Reggie had a beautiful weekend. The way she's smiling on that other side. All right, even as you talk about Sakaja, it just turns out that barely minutes after IEBC has cleared him, looks like he's not still off the hook yet, since DCI now wants him to really explain how he acquired this degree. I mean, it's really an interesting time to just see how academic qualifications are really at the center of politicians, going to the next level. But nonetheless, we will wait to see how that will pan out and whether or not he'll actually be at the ballot at the end of the day, given the fact that this is one of those necessary requirements, particularly for presidential and gubernatorial candidates. Away from that, also this morning on the roads, our focus will be on what is happening along Juja Road in terms of traffic. Remember that is one of those roads which hasn't quite really benefited from the expansion and reconstruction processes that we have been seeing being spearheaded by either Kura, Kenha or NMS. So this morning we look at that specific route, how it is doing in terms of traffic, and if at all there'll be any kind of gridlock, we shall definitely be looking at some alternative routes for you. In addition to that, also on our interactive segment, we'll be exploring matters to do with environment, as well as also how the increase in fuel prices has resulted in the high cost of living in this country, the ripple effect therein, and any alternative source of energy we can explore as Kenyans. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Arange Okelo. Ray.
So being June 20th, you have at least 10 days to file your tax returns ahead of the 30th of June deadline there set by the taxman. So just a quick reminder, if you haven't done so, then you need to do so. The taxman has quite a heavy burden there to bridge the deficit in as far as raking in revenue that is going to help government continue running its activities and operations. Remember, the financial year 2021-2022 ends on June 30th. That aside, yesterday was Father's Day. I don't know if you had a privilege to meet up with your father. Maybe they're already up in heaven, and we still acknowledge that indeed being a father, especially being an intentful, purposeful father, is no mean feat. So I continue celebrating those men who stand in between chaos and their offsprings every day to ensure that their children have the very best when it comes to life. We saw quite a change in things as the Kenyans took to social media and also across the globe, with some people getting on social media and moving away the conversation from fathers and grandfathers, and it gravitated towards husbands and spouses. Well, that's a quick turn of events there, And this particular article in one of the dailies that we're going to be sampling as we look at stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours, it indicated that, on Father's Day yesterday, fathers were honored by their children, while Husbands Appreciation Day is celebrated on the third Saturday of every April. The ladies went out to appreciate their better halves, so to speak. We're going to be putting that into perspective, and to just remind you that you have to be intentional and purposeful if you are a parent, so that, you know, we continue bringing up these children in the best way we know how. At the end of the day, a child is super Eid up until such a time when they can stand on their feet. Good morning once again. I'm Regina Manyara. We're going to be looking at those stories that have been making headlines, given that we have an update in where we are in as far as the August 9th polls are concerned. 49 days to go. We want to inform you that we welcome your feedback. You can get us on Twitter on KBC Channel 1. My Twitter handle is @RayManyara. Without further ado, let us look at those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. But first, a quick breather. We'll be right back. Good morning. If you're tuning in, you're watching In the Headlines right here on KBC Channel 1, and I'm Regina Manyara. Now, with 49 days to the August 9th polls, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has dismissed a petition seeking to bar Senator Johnson Sakaja from vying from the Nairobi gubernatorial seat. In a ruling, the tribunal said it is not within its jurisdiction to determine the validity of Sakaja's degree or authenticate his academic papers. The tribunal has also cleared Wavinya Ndeti to vie for the Machakos gubernatorial seat.
Senator Johnson Sakaja is tonight a step closer to the ballot after the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission said it would allow him to seek the Nairobi gubernatorial seat.
I am a law-abiding citizen. I'm a public servant as a current senator of Nairobi, and we shall abide by all the provisions of the law. I am glad that we've been vindicated. We stand qualified. We have the requisite qualifications to run for the office of Governor of Nairobi.
It has been a week of back and forth for Sakaja as he fights against what he believes are stumbling blocks stacked on his path to City Hall.
Our faith remains unshakable, our march is unstoppable, and our victory will be inevitable.
The Commission for University Education directed the senator to appear before it next Monday armed with a list of 14 requirements to back his Bachelor of Science in Management degree acquired from Team University in Uganda. On Sunday, the IEBC Dispute Tribunal also handed a reprieve to Wavinya Ndeti, whose candidature for the Machakos gubernatorial seat had been challenged over the authenticity of her academic documents.
Sasa nawaambia leteni ingine tumalizane na nyinyi. Na mimi siwaogopi, na tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8 nitawaangusha chini pajichore kamtu.
Meanwhile, the tribunal has thrown out an appeal by Kiambu senatorial aspirant Karungo Dhangwa. Karungo was denied clearance by IEBC to vie for the position because he was impeached by the Kiambu County Assembly.
The returning officer discharged his mandate in accordance with the law. The instant complaint lacks merit. These are our final orders, that the complaint be and is hereby dismissed with no orders to persist.
We are dissatisfied with that decision, and we shall be moving to the High Court tomorrow for review of that decision, because Mr. Karungo believes that the Commission cannot be a judge in its own cause.
But even as Ndeti and Sakaja celebrate Sunday's triumph, investigations are underway to determine whether any crime was committed in the awarding of clearance certificate by IEBC and other state agencies.
A reprieve? We'll see. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has hailed the Akorino denomination for its commitment and persistence in growing the church in Kenya. During celebrations to mark 100 years since the Akorino Church was established in the country, President Kenyatta lauded the church for playing a big role in spirituality and equipping many generations. The head of state, who was accompanied by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential flag bearer Raila Odinga and running mate Martha Karua, at the same time acknowledged the Akorino's support in his political journey.
Pomp and color. at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, during the 2022 Annual General Conference of the Akorino Church, which also coincided with the centenary celebrations. The event was graced by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who was accompanied by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition presidential candidate Raila Odinga and his running mate Martha Karua. President Kenyatta lauded the commitment by the Akorino faithful in growing the church countrywide.
Muko na vizazi ambavyo haihubiri tu injili, lakini wameingia kazi mbalimbali za udaktari, za uinjinia, wengine ni civil servants.
The church, with an estimated membership of 1.5 million, features prominently in Kenya's history.
Mumetembea na mimi kutoka wakati nimeanza siasa zangu mpaka hapa ambapo nimefika, na lazima niseme asante.
Akorino imeanza kama kikundi cha kupigania uhuru wa taifa letu, na amepata mateso mengi zaidi.
Assuring the church of support even after his retirement, the head of state offered some goodies to the church.
Nimetoa shilingi milioni 10 ya kuendeleza injili na kusupport kanisa la Akorino,
including a title deed to a parcel of land in Naivasha.
Na hii shamba na najua hamtauza, mtajenga, si ndio?
Sisi tuko pamoja na wana Akorino. Natoa shukrani kwa Rais Kenyatta kusimama na nyinyi.
President Kenyatta also warned school heads against discriminating learners who subscribe to the Akorino faith.
Now, while that was taking place at the Kasarani gymnasium there, Deputy President William Ruto says he will not be intimidated in his quest for presidency. Ruto, who held a rally at Jacaranda grounds in Nairobi hours after police had barricaded it, said he is confident he will emerge a winner in the August 9th poll.
Deputy President William Ruto's Sunday began at Jesus Winner Church in Roysambu, Nairobi, the United Democratic Alliance presidential flag bearer committing to use his abilities to protect the church, which he claims is under attack from some political quarters.
Na tutazidi na kutembea pamoja na nyinyi, msikuwe na wasiwasi. Hata ile shamba yenu mlikuwa na matatizo hapo, mimi nataka niwahakikishie Bishop, hiyo shamba mtapata. Na mbali na hiyo ni kidogo. Sasa tutawatafutia shamba ya serikali tuwapatie.
Later, Ruto led the Kenya Kwanza Brigade to Embakasi for a scheduled rally at Jacaranda grounds. The group arriving hours after police had quelled a standoff between supporters of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party and Kenya Kwanza Alliance over who had booked the venue first.
Ninataka niwashukuru vijana wa Nairobi na wangwana kina mama wa Nairobi na wazee wa hapa Nairobi kwa kukataa vitisho, kwa kukataa kushurutishwa. Watu wa Kanairo, msikubali hii vitisho kidogo kidogo. Hawa watu tayari tumewanyorosha. Wanajua ya kwamba tarehe 9 mwezi wa 8 tutawaweka kwa wheelbarrow na tutawapeleka nyumbani.
Ruto called on the youth not to be used by politicians to cause violence.
49 days to go to the August polls. My appeal is that we remember at the end of the day, this is an exercise that just takes 24 hours, but it would very well mean how we are governed for the next 5 years. Let's vote wisely, but also remember that you and I are meant to be our own brother and sisters keepers. Now, still keeping up on matters politics, Wiper leader Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka continued his consolidation of the Lower Eastern vote bloc for Azimio Oka by campaigning in Kadhonzweni, Makueni constituency, Kiatango in Kilome, and Mlolongo in Machakos County. The Wiper leader assured his base that his decision to drop out of the presidential race was strategic, meant to keep the county together. Now, he further assured that his 24-hour economy plan will be implemented by the Azimio Oka government because he will be the chief minister in charge of coordination of all the ministries.
Ninamuunga Raila Amolo Odinga mkono. Thank you. Wangapi wananiunga mkono kwa uamuzi huo? Sababu moja, manifesto yangu mwenyewe ni kufanya kazi masaa 24 ndio vijana wapate ajira. That has been the party position tangu 2007.
Well, that means as it may, let us still keep up with those stories that have been making headlines. Thank you very much, everybody who is watching. We are streaming live on our various social media platforms, including some of you who are watching from across borders. For example, we have 60 there who is watching from Rwanda. You can get tweeting and let us know where you're watching the broadcast from on our Twitter handle, that is at KBC Channel 1. Now we cross over to the stories. Former Lands and Devolution Chief Administrative Secretary Gideon Mung'aro has urged voters in Kilifi County to back his campaign for governor. Speaking to Channel 1's June Karisa Mbele, Mung'aro said his development track record speaks for itself and he intends to do much more should the people of Kilifi see him fit to hand him the mandate.
Gideon Mung'aro is back at the heart of Kilifi politics after a stint in the national government. The former Malindi lawmaker says he has his eyes fixed on becoming the county's second governor. Mung'aro says he will use the experience gathered in the national government to better the lives of locals and help devolution achieve its intended objectives.
When I won the Kilifi, I formed the Kilifi government, and we also formed the national government under ODM and Azimio. It will be much easier to push for more projects within the county and at the national level. Just like their coastal neighborhoods, a huge chunk of the local population has had difficulty accessing title deeds. Mung'aro says this he will resolve if elected into office. The problems you have of lands in most parts of these constituencies is private land. So the only way is to work the county government and the national government to see how we can negotiate with the landowners to see how we can acquire some of this land through the SFT. The former hotelier says he will revive the tourism sector and restore the region's lost glory. The tourism revival in Kilifi County will be based on a joint effort, a partnership between the county government and the stakeholders, so that we do marketing not as a country as it's done now, the Kenya Tourism Board and Ministry of Tourism, but to sell Kilifi as a destination. My deputy, being a woman, will also help me on matters of education, matters of women and youth empowerment. What I did when I was MP for Malindi is that the kids who were sponsored by the CDF had to bring their report forms at the end of the term before they get the next check for the next term. So I don't think it's so difficult to monitor.
Mung'aro is facing a spirited campaign mounted by Malindi Member of Parliament Aisha Juma of the United Democratic Alliance and George Kithi of the Pamoja African Alliance, among other hopefuls.
PA is a party which has come into place in the last 3 months, 4 months, and it's not easy to entrench a party in 3 months. ODM has been there for 15 years, so whether you like it or not, it's in people's heads, it's people's minds. Majority of the governor candidates on the other side, who are my competitors, are suppliers of the county government. I am not one. So that's the difference. And I have an agenda for Kilifi. I know what I can do in Kilifi and change Kilifi.
Juni Karisambele from Kilifi County.
Now, a quick update before we get into this sporting arena is that Machakos, Makueni, Siaya, Kitui and Kisumu have been ranked as the top 5 counties with the highest cases of rabies. And this is according to the research by the National Strategy for Rabies Elimination. Further details are available on our website, including that 246 people tested positive for COVID-19 from a sample size of 2,484 recorded in the last 24 hours. And this is data from the Ministry of Health that indicates that the positivity rate is at 9.9%. The onus is on you and I to continue stemming the spread of the COVID virus that the globe is yet to get a cure for. Now we speak motorsports, where the 2022 Wrc Safari Rally Kenya gets underway on the 23rd of this month in Naivasha in an all-women crew of Lisa, Christoph Henson and KBC journalist Pauline Shego will be among the 33 entrants who will take part in this year's edition. The duo, who has appealed for financial support from stakeholders and also the Ministry of Sports to enable them participate effectively in the annual event.
Speaking to KBC Sports here in Nairobi, Lioness Rally founder and driver Lisa Christopherson stated that they were ready to fly Kenyan's flag high during the annual event if they get necessary financial support.
We feel we're not getting the support that really should be given to us for our worthy cause. You know, we plant trees where we go. At Kasarani, we were given 1,000 trees by KFS. 500 were planted and another 500 will be planted. We did a complete pre and post cleanup at Kasarani. It was the cleanest ever. And that's what we want to do. So the only thing we leave behind is our tire tracks.
She said that they were well prepared to showcase their prowess in the male-dominated sport. Her navigator KBC News anchor Pauline Shego said they are ready to deliver their best during the event.
Tungekuwa timu kama 4 ya wanawake, lakini sponsorship imekuwa shida sana kwetu. Ndio kwa hivyo tukaingia mimi na Lisa ili tuweze kuwakilisha wanawake. Mbali na changamoto ambazo tunapata, imekuwa vigumu kuleta wanawake wengi, hata mimi pia kushiriki kama dereva mwaka huu kwenye mbio za magari. Ndio kwa maana nikakuwa navigator wa Lisa. Ni kwa sababu ya changamoto ya sponsorship.
The 2 Lioness Rally drivers will be the only all-women crew in the event.
Wajua tena waambiwa ile ya mwisho ndio wanzuri, na chakula kinachopikwa kwa muda mrefu ndio kinaiva, kinakuwa kitamu zaidi. Kwa hivyo najua chakula chetu bado kinatokota kwenye mtungi, kitakapokuwa kimeiva najua kitakuwa kitamu.
FIA World Rally Championship leader Kelly Rovenpera from Finland, Neval Thierry from Belgium and Estonian rally driver Tanak Out will be among the WRC drivers who will take part in the event. The WRC Safari Rally Kenya will be held between 23rd and 26th of this month and will cover a total distance of 1,223.77 kilometers, including road sections.
Now, that is a team that we need to support there. And just in case you're wondering who Pauline Shego is, she's a veteran journalist and she's part of our anchoring team that takes a weather bulletin every weekend on Dira la Magwiji. Now, Now let's keep up with matters sports, where the national cricket team will play Jersey today in the ICC Men's CWC Challenge League B at the Lugogo Stadium in Kampala, Uganda. Kenya are placed fourth in League B points table with 2 wins and 3 losses. The team has 5 points. RN Patel is the top run scorer for Kenya with 227 runs. Collins Omondi has been the best bowler for Kenya and has picked up 7 points there, or rather 7 wickets. Jersey were placed third on the spot in the group with 3 wins and 3 losses from their 6 matches in the league. Now the league has 6 points. Host Uganda will play Hong Kong in the second match of Group B today. To my director indicating that was a mute, and you were just to see the pictures, and we're going to get detailed report as we file the stories. Remember, those particular games are to be played today. Now, still keeping up with matters sports is that Alfred Mutomi and Saruni Nice beat Naftali Muturi and Patrick Waithanji 2-0 in their senior doubles in the badminton tournament held at the Diamond Plaza Indoor Arena in Nairobi. Mutomi and Saruni won back-to-back scores of 21-18, 26-24, and in the semi-finals, Mutomi and Saruni beat Mushiri and Peter and John Boro 21-15, 12-21, 21-9, while Naftali Muturi and Patrick Waithanji beat Patrick Kenya and Sami Ngahu 21-10, 21-15. The tournament is also a curtain raiser for the Triangle Sports Badminton Challenge tournament, slated for the 25th and the 26th of this month.
We are playing our best, we are playing with a seeded player, so it's a learning experience, and I believe they need to organize more tournament. The match practice is important when you are playing match, and definitely we are going to grow and learn lots, and it's again to Kenya.
Now, away from matters sports, it's just to remind you that at the end of this week, which is going to be the 23rd all the way, we're going to be having the WRC, and our very own Pauline Shegu is going to be competing in that Safari Rally, and you can get further details on how to support that particular team for a worthy cause. That brings a cap onto matters news this morning. We're taking a quick breather. When we're back, we're going to be sampling the various dailies with us in studio this morning. Do not go away.
Whatever it is you want to discuss, tutaongea baadaye. Sasa hii akili yangu imechoka. I just want to clear.
Kwa wakati huu wa mankuli, mimi hasira zangu zote humzimalizia hapa kwa mankuli. Sitaki kukuona. Kama unaingia ndani, atajilaumu mwenyewe kwa sababu hayo alijitakia mwenyewe.
Haijalishi mtoto anaponyelea paja, huoshwa halikatwi.
top sports attractions on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League test matches in Nairobi with a return fixtures set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back, and 5 minutes past the top of the hour. Time for us to quickly look at what the different dailies are holding for you this Monday morning. And we start off with a copy of the People Daily, and obviously just from that issue of petrol prices and the hiking of the same commodity therein and the ripple effect that it's having right now, particularly when it comes to the cost of living. This is what this daily is holding for you. Just indicates the data from the Kenya Economic Update 2022 now shows that between November 2021 and March 2022, households that said they were unable to access staple food were 36%. That is just in between these two times. It also, just going by this particular report, indicates that what is currently happening is that now traders, going by the kind of circumstance that we find ourselves in, have been forced to increase the food prices of various commodities. This is just to cater for the transport cost. And again, this has to be inflicted on you and I who are really buying this commodity. So then what does this mean even as we go forward? Might this just be that time whereby we need to explore other sources of energy? So even as we have this particular article this morning, these are also some of those issues that we'll be interrogating this morning on the interactive segment, particularly as we talk about renewable sources of energy. Now, away from that, what is happening in Mombasa right now is that experts now call for caution as 700 cases of dengue fever are now reported in that particular county. This is just what has been mentioned by the public health chief officer, that is Pauline Oginga, and she attributes this to heavy rains in the area. Also, she further on gives a recommendation to perhaps avert these cases that are reported there, citing the issue of, or rather citing that, communities in that area need to ensure that they disinfect stagnant water and also ensure they go to hospital anytime they show signs of fever. So that is what is happening in Mombasa County. Coming to the degree issue, that's just as we mentioned earlier, just a few minutes after IEBC had cleared Nairobi gubernatorial candidate, that is Johnson Sakaja. Now it turns out that he might not just be off the hook yet. This is as he is set to appear before DCI this morning together with various leaders, including Mithika Linturi, Machakos gubernatorial aspirant, that is Wavinya Ndeti, who have just been summoned by DCI to just to try and investigate, also to be grilled over the reports that they are in possession of forged certificates. So much as they were cleared, it just turns out that they are not off the hook yet. Also, lastly, looking at what is currently happening on our roads. This is in respect to the Green Park terminus. It was to be opened by May 24th, but that didn't happen, following public service vehicle operators just requesting the NMS to hold that a bit. They had cited various issues concerning where they will be peaking passengers, and also the issue whereby passengers wanted to just be looked into in respect to the kind of distance they'll be walking from the terminus to their various destinations. So now, as it turns out, NMS is set to conduct another test test run, and this is supposed to be the fourth one because last year 3 test runs were conducted. So this is said to be the fourth one to just ascertain and see how they're going to look into these issues again. They haven't quite put a specific date as to when it will be open, but what it turns out is that 2 various test runs will be conducted again on that particular terminus to look into the issues and again come up with a possible date on when the terminus would be opened. Ray.
With a copy of the Standard this morning being June 20th and 49 days to the August polls, the scribes here have opted to go with matters of politics continuing taking center stage, with the main read being why Uhuru is staying away from campaigns. If I can take you back to a few months when the president endorsed the presidency, or rather Raila Odinga there seeking to be the president in the August 9th polls, he has been in a subtle kind of setup trying to hold back him drumming up support for his preferred presidential candidate. Now, in this particular article, hands off as President Kenyatta takes a firm stand on politics, and recent public engagements show he's holding back from the campaigns and endorsements, like yesterday when he met the Akurino, whose platform he previously used to attack his deputy. Further details are going to be rather fleshed out in this particular article. And now, while that was happening there in Kasarani, Jacaranda was not so, calm, so to speak, in as far as Kenya Kwanza politics are concerned, where Ruto party now has written to the poll agency over the Jacaranda chaos. UDA asked the Electoral Commission to summon Inspector General of Police Hilary Mtiambai over what it termed as abuse of National Police Service by the Azimio coalition. Remember, I have just read quote in quote as it appears in this particular issue of the paper. Also, on matters of national importance, we have an opinion, so to speak, of former Chief Justice, who maintains that status quo remains no matter who wins the polls. I'm talking about former Chief Justice saying there that citizens there will not see change after this year's election. And in case you're wondering who this is none other than former Chief Justice William Tunga there. And details are fleshed out for you here. And a quick warning from the clergy, and this is from the Catholic Church, who went further yesterday to say that Kenyans, or rather warn Kenyans, that is you and I, not to complain about poor services should we vote in corrupt and immoral people in the forthcoming election. So that is from the pulpit, and a stand warning there to Kenyans that includes you and I. On also human interest, so to speak, the life of the foreign lover boy opening up money taps for Kenyan girls. Remember that tycoon who's been flagged, or rather his financial operations are being flagged for money laundering and such? Well, in case you want to know how he has lived his life up until that time when those accounts were brought into the limelight, well, this is an article that you need to read. Well, that's just but a sneak peek of what we have on the front page of this particular daily, with the back page focusing on what is going to be happening over the weekend. And we're talking about the Wrc Safari Rally Kenya, where our very own Pauline Shegu is going to be participating in from the 23rd of this month. Victor.
All right, I've got 2 local dailies here. Let me start with the Daily Nation. Making of a Titanic battle. We have got the IEBC yesterday gave embattled Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja a lifeline after it dismissed all petitions against his candidacy for the Nairobi governor's seat, setting the stage for a bruising battle for control of the country's richest county and seat of power, but also making a mockery of ongoing investigations into the validity of his Ugandan degree certificate. That is a story that has been making headlines for the past 1 week, with only 49 days to go. Also cleared, that is Taita Taveta Governor Granton Samboja, Machakos Wiper candidate Wavinya Ndeti. We also have former Kitui Governor Julius Malombe, but one gentleman who suffered a setback there is Kiambu Senator aspirant Karungu Thangwa. That is what's on the front page of the Daily Nation. Ruto's city rally marred by violence as Uhuru and Raila woo Akorino faithful. That was happening yesterday. Let me give you a brief. That where the president was meeting Akorino faithful to mark 100 years since it was started in Kenya in 1922. And during that process, President Kenyatta donated 100 million shillings in treats to the church, including a 5-acre piece of land in Naivasha. He also donated 10 million shillings to support the church's operations and 1 million shillings for the church to purchase books and magazines detailing its history. A total of 111 million. Chaos stone throwing marred DP Ruto's Jacaranda rally. During the process, Embakasi East parliamentary candidate on a UDA ticket Francis Mureithi suffered injuries after he was stoned by the rowdy mob there. But police were moved in pretty fast to create a buffer zone between the two warring factions. And quickly, game on as Sakaja Wavinya Malombe get IBC nod to vie. Mike Sonko, who wants to vie for the Mombasa governor seat, will however know his fate today. And there is a message from the bishops here. Bishops hit out at quote-unquote unethical leaders. Catholic clerics urge Kenyans to stand up against politicians supporting abortion and drug abuse. In particular, that is a Catholic Archbishop Anthony Muheria, who yesterday said that Kenyans to be wary of leaders seeking to promote immoral and unethical policies which will break the social fabric of the country. Nyeri Archbishop Muheria said that he urged rather Kenyans to stand up against politicians who are supporting abortion and drug abuse. Actually, in this particular order, it's about the Roots Party presidential candidate George Wajakoya, who we all know has a different manifesto. So he asked Kenyans to be wary of such politicians. How that is going to play around is a matter of wait and see. Rao in Ukambani, Escalonzo roots for Wiper candidate. It said that allies of Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Coalition Party presidential candidate Raila Odinga in Ukambani yesterday told off Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka for suggesting that voters should elect only Wiper candidates in the August 9th elections. But I don't think there's any problem there. Even Honorable Raila Odinga said that there's some areas that should vote 6-piece. So, yes, that is as far as Daily Nation is concerned. Let me toss it over to you, Doreen, then I'll come back later on with the Star newspaper. Doreen.
You're saying you don't think there's a problem with that, asking for Kenyans to vote for one particular party, going by that daily? I'm saying, Victor.
Yes.
You're saying that there's no problem with, voting for one particular party, voting 6-piece, as some of these leaders are alluding to.
Well, it's a political tactic, and it's a tactic that almost all these candidates are deploying because all of them are allied to the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance, right? So the tactic here is vote for Wiper. When you vote for Wiper, what happens? You're still voting for Azimio.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, Wiper enjoys a bigger support mostly in the Ukambani region. If you've witnessed, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has actually campaigned in Ukambani ever since he joined Azimio la Umoja. So when you're campaigning, first of all, you have to make sure that you make your area a solid block. So calling for a 6-piece, yes, it might have some ramifications on certain candidates, but at the end of the day, voters have a right to choose. But it's a tactic that most politicians do deploy. Yes.
You see someone say that no one wants to be a toothless president. Yes, you're in power, but...
You must have foot soldiers.
Oh, yes. Even
Right.
let's talk about this, the voting in a particular block, voting in 6-piece. I was just looking at this article whereby John Badi now says that he's actually dismissing that issue of voting 6-piece, and this is what he says: reject 6-piece vote. This is what he is insisting. Again, just remember what you've said, citing that Kenyans have a right to decide on who they really want to vote. But again, as you've mentioned, it is is a party strategy. So at the end of the day, it remains to be you and I to decide who we really want to put on, or who we really want to elect for the various positions. Now, away from that, you talked about what clerics are saying in respect to various political leaders, and also they've thrown it to Wajakoya again, and this is particularly because of his pronouncement when it comes to legalizing bang if elected. And so the section of Now Church leaders have appealed to Kenyans not to vote for this particular presidential candidate because of that. They have also cited the fact that this actually, the clerics, this is under the umbrella of Federation of Evangelical and Indigenous Christian Churches in Kenya. They say that Wajakoya's campaign promises are not only contrary to Christian values and ethics, but also disregard the rules of civilized society. So they say, don't vote for this particular presidential candidate. Whatever he is promising and whatever his policies are contravene the Christian values, and it's not in good taste. Now, just before I throw it to Ray, I want us to quickly look at what NMS is now doing. And again, yes, I mentioned it earlier, but this is just basically what is happening in respect to this terminus. So now, as it turns out, is that NMS had initially announced that only 3 matatus per circle would be allowed to access the terminal at a given time. Remember that for various particular routes, there are various circles. And this is what the public service vehicle operators were actually questioning and were against, because what this simply means is that this particular matatus would only be dropping, because if you are only allowing 3 of them at a particular time, then what happens to the remaining of this matatu circles? Where will they be as these other ones are dropping? So that again was in a way not allowing them to be picking, but only just dropping passengers. So there was that one issue. And then the other issue was the distance in which passengers will be walking. But in essence, if someone is coming from areas of Ngong Road, because this is the terminus, the Green Park terminus will be used for areas such as that, and they're going to areas of Thika Road, so to speak, then that means they have to be walking from Green Park terminus to Fig Tree, because again, Fig Tree is supposed to be a terminus in itself. So this is also one of the things that they were questioning, and now this is what also prompted NMS to postpone the commissioning of this terminus as it had been slated to happen in May. They pushed it further to a date that they haven't quite mentioned, as they try to conduct other tests to see how they are going to address and deal with the issues that have been raised by passengers as well as public service vehicle operators. Ray.
Now let's take a different turn here and we look at matters social, so to speak. And this is Inside the Life of Wealthy Lover Boy opening tabs for Kenyan women. And just but a sneak peek into what I am talking about is that by the time the Asset Recovery Agency slammed the brakes of his gifts, Mark DeMazel had gifted 3 Kenyan women and one man an upward of 600 million shillings. Yes, you had that correct. In the various court cases filed to freeze the gifts, ARA argued that the beneficiaries were part of a complex international money laundering syndicate and that Mazel was using the Kenyans to clean after himself. Now, he landed in Kenya around 2017 and got entangled in love relationships with several Kenyan girls, among them Felsta Njoroge Nyamathira, Tebi Kago, and Sarah Kamanda, each whom he went on to have a child with. You know, Mazel confirmed that Cooperative Bank that he was gifting the amounts to her to build financial security for herself and the future children. She was pregnant at the time and eventually gave birth in February this year. That's a story that has been captured here. And I'd want to read what Mark Freddy DeMazel had to say in regard to that, because there's a lot to say. This is actually 2 pages, you know. He says, I was lucky to inherit money at a young age. My financial freedom is what I did with the money. Like the story of the Bible, 3 people I invested in a fertile ground. And he's talking about cryptocurrency. And if you've been looking at how the global market is reacting to cryptocurrency, there was a downward trend in as far as value of Bitcoin was concerned, I think sometime last week. I don't know where it is at right now, but various people who've been trading on this particular platform have incurred some losses there. So if you really want to know this man who has gifted Three women and a man, an upward of 600 million shillings. Who he was, where he invested. Well, this is a story that is quite an interesting read there. He took to the airwaves after ACA actually slammed the brakes, or rather flagged these particular accounts for these women. Now, according to ex-Chief Justice, we've moved away swiftly from the 600 million shillings. Now, former Chief Justice, that is William Tunga there, he argues that neither Raila nor Ruto has the answer to Kenyan problems. That's what he said in this particular article. And he believes that Makueni Governor Kivutha Kibwana would have changed Kenya for the better had he contested the presidency and won. I don't know what your opinion is or is about in regard to that particular statement by the ex-Chief Justice there. Remember, we welcome your feedback and we are open to that feedback. You can get us on Twitter on KBC Channel 1 there. Thank you for streaming, those who are streaming, and telling us where you're watching this particular broadcast from. And now you're talking about matters of politics. I want to take you back to Victor. Over to you.
All right, on to the Star newspaper. Drama, chaos, Ruto rally at Jacaranda. It was marred by rowdy youth who pelted stones at DP's convoy as he forced his way to the venue. Police earlier sealed off grounds but later withdrew. All right, that's on the front page. As that was happening, not far away from Jacaranda, President Uhuru Kenyatta was meeting the Akorino faithfuls at the Kasarani Gymnasium. Front page there. As relief for Sakaja, Ndeti, after IEBC tribunal clears them to run. Soldier in Agnes Wanjiru murder still walking free. Let me give you that story briefly. This is a story that happened years ago. Investigations into the stabbing and killing of a woman in Nanyuki by a British soldier in 2012 have not progressed. A report by London-based newspaper The Sunday Times has shown. The suspect in the case has yet to be arrested or questioned by the authorities. Agnes Wanjiru, 21, was last seen entertaining a British soldier based in Nanyuki town before going missing for 3 months. And later on, her decomposing body was found in a septic tank of a social joint. You know, one interesting bit of this story is that the same newspaper is the same newspaper that broke the story about this issue. And now, the Sunday Times is the same newspaper reporting that the soldier is still walking free. Quite interesting. Woman dies after truck runs over her as she tries to pick fallen phone and purse. That's a case of double tragedy there. As that was happening, stop imposing Raila on Kenyans. ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi tells Uhuru Kenyatta. They were speaking yesterday at the Jacaranda grounds, where it's been covered quite extensively there, where there was drama and chaos yesterday there, but police later on withdrew. And during that process, Mureithi, who is the Embakasi East Member of Parliament aspirant, was injured in the process. Jubilation and relief for Senator Sakaja as IBC tribunal clears him. Big blow to UDA's Thangwa as Wavinya gets nod to contest. And finally, President rallies Akorino to back Raila in his bid. Yes, the president did not, go straight to the point, but some would argue that tagging Raila Odinga and Martha Karua along to that function showed a lot. So that was yesterday. And finally, bye-bye Sirikoi. Majestic, iconic Nairobi Park lion dies, age 8. It said that the big cat, loved by visitors, could alone bring down the huge game like giraffes and buffaloes. For the game lovers, it's a big blow. And to the wildlife lovers as well, this will also go down the history that, yes, history has fallen. I don't know what you think about it, Doreen, because we also had an issue during the construction of the SGR where people, the environmentalists were against the construction of the SGR. You remember that issue?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Why? Because of the kind of effects it has to our environment.
Exactly.
And also, you know, we've also had such kind of issues, particularly when you have people encroaching to some of these spaces. Now we're seeing animals coming to the habitats of human beings, and you're asking, what is the problem? It's because you're encroaching in their spaces. You build most of these roads in their spaces, they will come to you. You build the SGR in their spaces, they will come to you. So yeah.
All right. I was tempted to ask Regina the economic effect of just losing one lion to the economy and even to the visitors visiting the park. It might seem so small, but economically huge. Right,
well, if you see what the KWS has already done to Sirikoi there, they have immortalized the life of this lion. So if you have been doing the Nairobi National Park and you came across this particular lion, you'll see it in the emblem, you'll see it in its branding. So to just try and remember, especially if you grew up in the 80s, and I'm speaking to those people who, you know, those outings involved going to the orphanage, you'll remember there was a chimpanzee named Sebastian. And even now we have a hotel within that particular park that was given that particular name. We grew up knowing that if you go to the orphanage, that you're going to see Sebastian down there in his place, you know, entertaining and living with his family and such. And that was a brand that they could build on. The same way, if you enjoy watching National Geographic, so to speak, you'll be, you might have seen a film about Nock and his sons. You know, this is a team of Pride of Lions that are within the Governor Square. A pride of around 33 lions and 33 lions, led by three, and these are actually brothers. And when Scarface, actually they called him, referred to that, but one lion there, Scarface, passed on, they had to really immortalize this particular lion, because visitors have a way of getting attached to animals, especially those who are keen onto documentaries or just enjoy some wildlife. Well, so you can bet anyone who had gone to see Sirikol and they liked what they saw, you know, will always be coming back to look at the films that have already been recorded and the branding material and such. So actually, it is of economic loss, just as it was of economic value. So what KWS would actually do at this point is to try and either come up with merchandise that immortalizes this particular lion, especially to wildlife lovers, and I think it would be a good sale. Sebastian is still running, isn't it, as a hotel within the park, so we can look at it as a monetary point of view. But yes, it's a great loss, especially to animal lovers.
Everything is money. I like the way you put it. All right. Ladies, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to get into the details of our foreign policy. Now that we are heading to an election, how important is Kenya's election to the foreign nations? That's the discussion we're going to have with Advocate Kevin Katisia and international relations expert Edward Wanyonyi shortly after this.
I arranged a great marriage for him, the kind other men dream of, and he wants to break it off.
If this is what you insist on, all I could do is take my own life.
You want to die for her?
Samuel has truly messed up. It won't be long till the whole world knows he wants to break off the engagement.
I couldn't care less if he breaks it off. Why would it matter?
I hope I'm not intruding. I'm just passing through. I'm Ferna from Green Hill. Show some respect.
Elliot!
Kwani kichwa chako imeruka?
Kocha, ni maneno napewa. Mimi niko ulimwengu ya hewani. Kuna siku msungu asa kuproposia hata kama ni ukuoa hata kama kwa ndoto.
Enyi iko na guacamole.
Lady.
Omara, I'll slap you mouth.
Hizi nimetoka kwa mbali. Alafu nikichukua kama 8 hivi nishikanishe hivi alafu tutano kando sinakuwa samaki kubwa.
Kumbe hapa tunakuwa tumepangiwa kwa malishwa. Hiyo utakuwa na meza hivi inakatalia hivi unaenda
Well, my daughter Nuria is pregnant. What? Please act like the wedding was held in a hurry. Darling, let's dance.
Sit down.
Fabio. Not going to apologize to him, nor to anyone, especially after what that crazy woman Julieta did.
What I hate is the fact that that thing that you have there inside you would be my child.
He doesn't love you. He made you go away. That's why you had to come back.
Would you like to be my wife?
Tell him that you do, Mom. Tell him.
Yes, I have excellent grades in all of my subjects, and I was going to graduate with honors.
But as far as I know, the only student who's going to graduate with honors is Nuria Morat.
We visit Ban Manufacturing Company headquarters in Ruiru, Kiambu County to witness the behind the scenes of manufacturing different types of cooking appliances, otherwise known as the Jiko Okoa. We start at the loading bay where all the raw material used is kept. The material is received as per the request and requirements made on their spreadsheet. The same then goes through a robust quality inspection process to validate the mechanical and chemical aspects.
Once it's validated and good for use, we come up with a build plan, which is basically a plan for how you're going to cut the 8x4 sheets to become exactly what it will be in the product.
The raw material is as diverse as the different products manufactured here, but mostly all from the steel family. The 8x4 sheets are then cut into smaller sizes depending on expected end product. In the next stage, the pieces are designed to fit respective rolls.
The forming stage, where now you start giving that stage some form of shape that will eventually come to be seen in the store. And once all the parts have been formed, then they go to the assembly section.
Next, the parts are washed in soap and water, dried, and painted, and then put in a kiln for 20 minutes for the paint powder to stick. The parts are then assembled accordingly to form the final product.
The assembly section, we mostly use permanent joinery processes, especially for the old processes, which is basically welding processes.
Once the product has been put together, the Jiko core is then wiped clean, and the quality inspection is done by quality inspectors.
The people in the orange dust coats, so those are the quality inspectors, and every stuff has to be inspected. So they inspect for all the features are there, whether they have been put together or assembled in the right way, and every
is not good for human consumption, and we reject that. But if it retains its color like this is good. And also, we have our refractometer. We do check the moisture content. And the required moisture content is between 13 and 22%.
Depending on where and how the honey was harvested, it contains varied properties.
The reason why we have different colors of honey depends with the vegetation where the bees foraged the nectar and pollen. Also, what can determine the color is mode of harvesting. If you harvest poorly, poor processing methods can affect the taste of the honey and the color. If you over smoke, maybe your honey could have been light, it will be darker. But the main reason for color in the honey is where the bees forage the pollen and the nectar and the region. We can have black, we can have white. It depends with the vegetation and the season of harvest.
Once the testing is done, the honey is then weighed in preparation for the warming process.
When you finish your processing in the warmer, it cuts some certain kgs because of the dirty present in the honey. So the reason is that you should know, when doing your records, you should know how many kgs you have lost from the warmer, and during packaging, you have to lose also.
The honey is then transferred into a warmer where it is heated up for 4 hours at certain temperatures between 40 to 45 degrees centigrade.
The purpose for warming the honey is to lengthen the crystallization process. And crystallization it occurs when the glucose content is higher than the fructose.
After warming, the honey undergoes the filtration or sieving process.
After the 4 hours, we filter or we sieve to separate the molten wax, impurities, the dead bees present in the honey. Then we get the pure honey, which is clean for human consumption. Then we allow it to settle.
It then undergoes the cooling process where it is allowed to settle for a period of 48 to 72 hours.
During cooling period, the top cream settles at the top, while some dust settles at the bottom. So we allow it to settle before packaging and remove the top cream before packaging
After cooling, the honey is now ready for packaging. After packaging, labeling, sealing takes place, rendering the product ready for distribution. There you have it, refined honey. Jackie Wambiru, The Process.
Very well, welcome back. Now let's take a look at Ion Politics today. And today let's talk about something quite different today. We are only 49 days to the polls, and Kenya plays a very, very big role locally and internationally, so to speak. Now, today let's focus on the issue of international policy and diplomacy, how the polls will affect it negatively or positively. And on that note, I have two gentlemen in studio. I have Edward Wanyonyi, who is a researcher, a trainer, a speaker and communications expert in Africa security and development progress. He's also an expert in foreign policy and so much more. Quite a heavy CV there. Edward, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
And Kevin Katisia, who is an advocate of the High Court in the Republic of Kenya. Kevin, karibu.
Thank you, Victor.
Gentlemen, I have to start where we should, what we witnessed yesterday. I think that would be the best way to start. So let me start with you, Edward. The chaos that we witnessed yesterday at the Jacaranda grounds, what do you make of that?
I think historically Jacaranda has been a battleground for elections from 1992. I mean, there is no election which has spared Jacaranda. Maybe it will be news when we get an election cycle that Jacaranda does not have any kind of, outbursts. It's significant in many ways. And at the same time, I think a lot of the times you would find that all the political actors in that space would want to be able to have a stab, not only because it's in the cities, just like your typical Uhuru Park, and how significant it is for Kenya's elections context. So I feel that, one, there is a failure by the political actors and duty of care by the, political organizers, and also a challenge in terms of better crowd control. And that's, I think, what led to the kind of chaos that we saw yesterday.
I like the way you started, that Jacaranda suffered its fate. It's known for violence. But then now, having, Kevin, a person like Deputy President also facing the wrath of, rowdy youth, two warring factions, perhaps we should learn from what happened in 2007, should we?
Yes, we should. And Victor, looking at what happened yesterday, you saw there were two bookings of the ground, where the MP and because East Babu Wino had booked, and also where the UDA MP candidate Murethi also had booked, and all of them were told to cancel to avoid the chaos and the violence which may occur. And you saw now the ODM team, Babu, they withdrew. But of course, even after withdrawing, their troops were already there, because they were cancelling in the morning. So their supporters were already there. And now, on the side of UDA, they said we must go. So now I think it was unfortunate how I wish the UDA team also withdrew from having the rally, because you see now, we have UDA supporters and also Azimio supporters. Because when Babu withdrew, his supporters were still there. Of course, the police tried to do their work, but unfortunately, you saw there were some people who were injured, like the UDA candidate, which was very unfortunate. And I think it is high time, Victor, we try to encourage our the candidates should encourage their supporters to exercise some tolerance, because going with how it is now, this may be a recipe of violence in the coming elections. So I think it is important, and I think the IBC has always done that In 2017, you saw how IBC was telling candidates to share their campaign program, even with the IBC, so that there's no clash. Right. I think that's what should happen, whereby the campaign program between 49 days is a little time. Let these parties share their campaign program. But you see, Victor, the campaign program to be shared is usually for the presidential. But you see now, if Ruto shares his campaign,
so hard to manage.
Exactly. So the MP may say, "I will. This is my area. I can go anywhere within my area." So I think it is a matter of, as we do politics, and I read an article by the former Chief Justice William Mutunga, my senior, and it is unfortunate that Kenyans are seeing that the two warring camps, Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, both of them have something we can pinpoint and say, this need not be done, this is what should be done. You can see there are some...
They know each other. So
they know each other very well. So I think it is, and I liked also how the president tried to stay away from politics this time around. You even saw when he was with the former Prime Minister yesterday, he did not even do politics in church. Right. So I think it is important that all these candidates, and of course I saw the UDA Secretary General writing to the IBC asking them to disqualify Babu Owino for organizing all that. We don't know whether it is him who organized. All we know is that it is him who had booked the ground, but it later cancelled.
All right, let me come back to you, Edward, briefly. IEBC sat for 10 days, and we have got a couple of candidates who've been cleared. We have got Obinyandeti, Malombe, and Sakaja. Those three actually were in the lips of so many people. But then, what's your take on that? The performance of IBC Dispute Resolution Committee, which was sitting for 10 days, have they done the job to your perception?
I think Wakili here will be in a better place to be able to address the issues that are actually in front of the High Court at the moment. As we know very well, some of the matters have been taken by DCI further. And I feel that the challenges that the institution faces are challenges which are structural. And perhaps they actually are an indictment on our legislature itself in terms of the kind of capacity they give and the legal mandate they give to IEBC and how IEBC frames this issue it calls independence, because it's from that independence that it's now saying that it lacks jurisdiction. Then you wonder what is the precedence that it's actually setting, in this kind of cases. And I understand very well there are issues of natural justice, there's proof beyond reasonable doubt, and the other parameters that are there. But I feel that perhaps the next parliament needs to really critically examine the role and the mandate of IEBC and how it relates with other institutions. Independence cannot be outside other institutions and forms of collaboration with other agencies. Because, if what happens when KRS starts saying that it's independent? What happens with the collaboration with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics or with Central Bank? You can't be independent in a country. You have to work with others, and you also have to defer to other institutions. And in this case, I think IBC working together with the Commission of University Education would have addressed some of these matters prior to us coming to this kind of phase. But I feel that as the matter goes to court, of course, we cannot be able to preempt the sub judice rule. We will want to wait on it and see how the matter will be progressed, if at all the matter will now be able to be taken up by the ODPP.
Right.
Thank you.
Well said. Katisia, from the legal aspect, IBC said that they were not in a position to investigate some issues. So that is now under jurisdiction of the DCI to undertake. But then, how independent is IBC? And to your, gauge, how did they perform?
First of all, Victor, I would like to start by saying that Article 88, 4E of the Constitution of Kenya, 2010, and Section 74 of the Elections Act establishes what we call now the IBC Dispute Resolution Committee, which hears and determines disputes regarding nomination and clearance of candidates by IEBC. And looking at what the committee has been doing since when it was launched by the chair, and Victor, I must tell you, I have sat in those committees almost every day because I have been representing Wiper Democratic Movement in all their matters at the committee. Even the matter of Honorable Wavinya, the matter of Honorable Malombe, the matter of Governor Sonko, I have been participating. Though I would not like to say much because some of the matters have not been determined, like the one for Sonko, which may be determined today, in the course of today. But one thing I can comment is that I have seen a lot of maturity and independence by the committee. Remember, the IBC Dispute Resolution Committee has been working under a lot of political pressure, looking at the cases brought before them.
260 something cases.
Yes,
right.
A lot, and they have been sitting every day from 8 a.m. to even late into the night at around 10 p.m. And this is the first time we are seeing the IBC committee really working. You know, because we also must appreciate that our democracy is growing and people are fighting for their rights. You know, Victor, Article 38 of the Constitution is very clear that every Kenyan has a right to vote and a right to participate in the elections, to be voted for or to vote for somebody else. So what I would like to say is that with regards to the matters which have been determined by the committees, so far, in my opinion, the committee has been very fair. Because if you put a matter before the committee and the committee has no jurisdiction to hear such a matter, do you expect them to hear it? The issue of university degrees, for example, if Sakaja has brought before the committee an university degree, and Wavinya and Zamboja, and this is the same degree they presented before the same commission in 2017, and they were cleared. Where now, since then, when they were cleared,
what has changed?
What has changed? Where was Commission of University Education and the DCI? Where was they then? When DCI says they will summon Sakaja, to look at his degree issue, where were they in 2017? And Victor, to be honest, some of these people are justified into saying that they think the state is interfering. Because where was the state then? And the IBC was very right because they have no jurisdiction over the issue of degree. Let the DCI do their work. If they do their work...
IBC said that they don't have mandate to investigate the papers.
Exactly. If they do their work and they establish that Sakaja or Wavinya, their degrees are not good, the High Court rules so, the IBC will act on the order of the court. So as I finish, Victor, on that matter, remember also the committee has had some challenges. I was able to see a situation whereby, the committee supervises the work of the returning officers. If somebody says, this road did not clear me and I was qualified. Now look at the issue of presidential candidates. You saw what happened to Jimmy Wanjigi and Nyambane. And now when Jimmy Wanjigi when Jimmy Wanjigi went to the committee, and I was there, I was seated there when his case was being heard. And in all the other cases, Victor, it was the complainant versus the returning officer. So now Jimmy Wanjigi said, I am the complainant. I want this committee to bring the presidential returning officer, who is Chebukati, here, so that I can cross-examine him. What did the committee say? We have no jurisdiction over our boss. The chairman is their boss. So the question is, who will give those complainants justice? So the committee has their own challenges. And that's why now we have High Court, which now has overall jurisdiction to now hear any further complaints and make final orders. So what I can ask of the committee, and remember, these committees are composed of lawyers who are in IBC's legal panel and IBC commissioners. So they could be there to also implement the decisions of the commission, disregarding what the complainants are saying. So I think, Victor, it is high time that IBC, as I conclude, Victor, because it's a very good motive point, as IBC conducts these elections, let them demonstrate to the public that they will conduct free, fair, and credible elections. Because the issue of fairness, Victor, and credibility begins now at the clearance. If people say this person who was our candidate was qualified, but IEBC, for their own maybe political reasons, because some people are saying IEBC is being influenced by some other factors. So let them demonstrate and let them give public confidence that they will conduct free, fair and credible elections.
Edward, you are getting that fire from him. Of course, he'll be sitting in so many committees and, at the bar, with so many of the contestants and candidates. But he's firing IBC of not being independent. But IBC, on the other hand, says that they've done their job and they are ready for the elections. I don't know what you think from where you sit.
I think there are parameters. I mean, from any kind of election, there are parameters for assessing electoral preparedness. There are factors looking at basically the capacity to actually deliver a vote that is credible.
Yes.
But one thing we have to appreciate is that in Africa and in most of these countries, even if you bring 12 angels from heaven to administrate over the elections, we will still have people who will contest it. They will still contest it because everyone, even who feels like they are just having, their family members. Yes, even if their person is having only their family members voting for them, they'll still feel that they have been aggrieved by IEBC, by whatever electoral body is. And it's just challenges in terms of we are looking at the socialization of our society in terms of elections. Is that is the point to make it,
right?
Because that allows you to get into the public office and where you can be able to loot and benefit from impunity. We are not looking at elections to develop our people most of the time. We are looking at it as a form of patronage. And so people have invested and vested their interests in that election. You have seen people who are actually resigning from very well-paying jobs because they know that when they get into the public office, they will lose the accountability that actually they would actually have in other public offices or in other jobs. So the space for scrutiny is lower within the public office. It's very fluid. And then now you're able now to loot or benefit from it. We have yet to socialize ourselves to a place whereby our elections actually come to be public service. And so with that kind of stake and interest, everyone will complain. Everyone will feel aggrieved. And the claims of unfairness, even when you hear, some of the candidates he's actually talked about he's representing, I shudder, in as much as he believes in terms of the cab rank rule, but I shudder to see that some of these people are actually contesting or actually even having the audacity to actually present themselves to be voted. But it's the poverty of our integrity as a society, in terms of looking at ourselves in the mirror and saying, really, do I actually embody the ethos of public service and do I actually want to be voted? And when you feel someone is actually amassing and using levels of criminality to impose themselves as a candidate, even when they know very well that they can beat the system and escape it, but deep down themselves they know that they have challenges with this challenge of integrity, then you really question yourself and say, where are we going as a country? Beyond just winning this election, what happens to the soul of this country when such people will be entrusted with leadership positions? So I think it's just an introspection to ask ourselves that besides the institutional capacity of IEBC or any other organization, are we actually ready for a free and fair election? And what will it take, actually? Are we ready? Because a free and fair election means there have to be losers. But we seem to create an impression that all of us must win.
Because elections in Kenya and even Africa at large is a do or die.
Yes, and that's the problem, because we have staked the entire development of our nation outside the role of actually government just running without necessarily. We can't even have an opportunity to breathe. Economies are shutting down. People are telling you, I can't even sign this tender because an election is here. Wait until after the election. We can't even have the opportunity to have an election and people continue with work. We have to declare a public holiday. You can look at the paralysis that actually occasions our kind of elections. While other countries out there, you'll find that people will go and vote and continue working. You don't lose that day.
Some of them actually done online. You go to the office, you open your computer,
but you look at it, in terms of where we are. So we can't even deliver what you'd call a free and independent election. Even if we are to do the same, it will have a challenge. Unless you're having a decisive winner, like what happened in 2002, when there was a whole wave, you know, and there was a margin of a whole margin that actually allowed, you know, to have a decisive winner.
Yes.
And to give the winner the capacity to actually govern. And actually the opposition leader then, you know, Uhuru Kenyatta, was gracious enough to concede defeat.
Yeah.
But after that, what have you seen? You even see the reading from the Supreme Court ruling in 2017, how it severely indicted IEBC. But what did Parliament do afterwards? It did not go in and strengthen that space and allow IEBC to clean up its space.
Right.
So I think those are structural issues that we have, and we need to really focus and face ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves, as voters, as candidates, as party leaders, as financiers of this election, what do we really want?
What do we really want? At this particular point, we need a break.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back with Edward and Kevin.
Whatever it is you want to discuss, tutaongea baadaye. Sasa hii akili yangu imechoka. I just want to clear myself.
Kwa wakati huu wa mankuli, mimi hasira zangu zote umezimalizia hapa kwa mankuli. Sitaki kukuona. Kama unaingia ndani, atajilaumu mwenyewe kwa sababu hayo alijitakia mwenyewe.
Haijalishi mtoto anaponyelea paja, huoshwa halikatwi.
Well, my daughter Nuria is pregnant. What? Please, that's like the wedding was held in a hurry. Darling, let's dance.
Sit down.
Fabio. I'm not going to apologize to him, nor to anyone, especially after what that crazy woman Julieta did.
What I hate is the fact that that thing that you have there inside you would be my child.
He doesn't love you. He made you go away. That's why you had to come back.
Would you like to be my wife?
Tell him that you do, Mom. Tell him.
Yes, I have excellent grades in all of my subjects, and I was going to graduate with honors.
But as far as I know, the only student who's going to graduate with honors is Nuria Morat.
As campaign intensifies for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Welcome back to now. Let's just finish up this debate. Kevin, let me just get your point. Senator Sakaja was summoned by the DCI and he's set to appear before the DCI for the investigation. So, of course, the dispute tribunal committee said that it's not in their place to investigate the authenticity of this of Sakaja's papers. But then, can we say that Senator Sakaja is not out of the woods yet?
Victor, what I would say is that Senator Sakaja is not out of the hoods. He is not. Because remember, IBC was just saying, you know, we have no mandate to question somebody's degree. We have no mandate.
Yeah.
If you bring a degree, and the same degree we have seen before, we have no mandate. We will clear you. However, if now the Council of Commission of University Education, the DCI, or even the Senate of the school of the university where somebody went to university, if they say, you know, we don't know this person, he has never come to our school. If they say that, And of course, somebody has to go to court in the High Court, and the court makes an order to IBC confirming. Now the court must confirm and make a declaration that indeed that degree is not authentic. Then the IBC will act upon that. And remember, Victor, judiciary is very independent. And I know judiciary will not act on these political issues being put across by the Kenya Kwanza team, where of course they are accusing the state of interfering. If somebody goes to court, of course if Sakaja, the DCI open a criminal case, of course the case will go to court. The question is, we don't know when it will end. It may take years before it will end. But if
only 49 days to go now.
Exactly, we have 49 days to go. So I think it is high time that also, so that we also have the people of Nairobi. There must be some level of honesty and fairness to them. If indeed Sakaja is not qualified, then he should not be cleared. But if he is qualified and the case is prosecuted and it is determined that indeed his degree was fake, there was forgery, then it is not good. Maybe after 1 year after he's elected, then now they say he's not qualified, they do another election. It will not be fair to the people of Nairobi. So this thing, Victor, let us look at it as affecting not those candidates, but the people, the voters. Even the issue of Sonko, don't look at the issue of Sonko as a person. Look at the people of Mombasa who may want to vote for him. For Sakaja as well, don't look at Sakaja as a person. Look at the people of Nairobi. So, and the issue of state being condemned to be trying to influence, I think I don't agree with that. I think Sakaja also and his people should know that this matter is having an ongoing investigation. So, if I was to be their lawyer, I would advise them to stop discussing that issue. But you see now they are trying to politicize it. Maybe they believe by politicizing and saying, you know what, we are being targeted by the state, you know, they think they'll get sympathy votes from the supporters. That, if I was the advocate, I would tell them, please, just go do your own campaigns, but don't discuss this issue. So his issue is a live issue, and an issue which involves forgery, fraud, because you know some of these things is being asked to provide. If indeed you went to school, you should provide. You should provide. Like a letter of admission. Exactly. Like I'm sure, Victor, you have your transcript somewhere. You have your maybe you took some photos. We did. The so-called lamination. And also people in the social media are trying to create all manner of jokes about it. So I think the best thing, Victor, is to ensure that Sakaja's rights as a Kenyan are upheld, but as you uphold his rights, also the rights of the people of Kenya and the people of Nairobi must also prevail. And Victor, IBC will then be able to act upon any orders by the court. And remember, the court, the High Court is superior to the IBC. These committees were set up so as to, you know, apart from these high-profile cases you're hearing, there have been more than almost 300 complaints brought before that committee. It's not just one issue. There have been so many other issues. And I believe IBC, from where I sit, have done their job. Now it is the work of DCI. Let Kinoti and his team and Mutiambai prove that they can do an independent job, because the police service is independent. Let them do a good job. Let them be able to clearly establish that indeed this degree was not authentic. And also the university, if they are saying that now Teams University, let them also give their honest opinion. But if somebody went to university, Edward, and maybe the university has been approached by some other people, so that they disown you, you know, it is upon you now. You see, in IBC committee, it was upon the returning officers, to convince the committee that Sakaja was not qualified. So the burden was on them. But now, at the level of High Court, it will be now upon Sakaja. So he has a very big task. It is upon him to prove beyond reasonable doubt that indeed his degree was genuine. Let him prove that.
Let's wait and see how it's going to pan out, because they have a date today with the DCI, and perhaps the developments that will come out from that grilling. Gentlemen, let's talk about Martha's election with just a few days to go. Kenya is a big boy internationally and even locally and regionally. So we have an election that is going to be determined by around 40 or thereabout. But then the question is, how is it going to be affected? Starting with you, Edward, the foreign policy that Kenya deploys out there that we subscribe to, of peace, stability, prosperity, and all that put together. How will this election either make it or break the same policies?
I think the challenge that we face is that, as we talked about it, that our structural nature in the country tends to paralyze even our other aspects of the country. We seem to forget that the country is bigger than that one day.
Yes.
And that makes us to be able to lose out on the bigger picture. But you can actually see the gains that Kenya has actually been able to make in the past 10 years from, asserting our space at the African Union in terms of what we've been able to achieve from a diplomatic perspective, the dividends that have actually come from diplomatically. Kenya was one of the countries that actually was among the top 5 to ratify the Africa Free Continental Trade Free Policy.
Yes.
We have actually supported, the growth and of the, the African passport. I mean, the aviation industry, the policies that have been there. Kenya has been the forefront in terms of the COVID response also in Africa and at large. We see what Ambassador Martin Kimani is doing at the UN Security Council. For the first time, Kenya is there. And not only that, when you come back home regionally, we are now very much vested in terms of the newly formed, ATMIS force that replaced Somalia, in Somalia, replaced AMISOM. We are seeing also our forays, in terms of looking at stabilizing East Africa space region in terms of Congo and DRC. We have also seen our overtures also in Mozambique that has been there. So we have actually invested so much in these spaces. And the challenge for me is that if we have a leadership that comes that will not be able to handle this kind of gains.
Yes.
Then we will be actually relegated back. And you see, power is never, given, it's taken.
Exactly.
If we do not assert ourselves, if we do not have a visionary cabinet secretary coming in September, to shape that kind of direction, we would have clawbacks. Remember, Parliament attempted to actually even reduce the number of our foreign missions at some point. Yes. And actually, Ministry of Foreign Affairs...
120.
Yes. Ministry of Foreign Affairs had to rebut and say, this is where we get our trade capital, because all these kind of trade missions help us in terms of our bilateral engagement and our actually trade capacity. So I feel that it behooves the next government to actually take a critical overview of our foreign dividends that we have actually gotten and pursue them further. Because also just look at our import base. It's so huge, it's disproportionate to our export base. And that is a role of foreign policy, how we can turn it around and ensure that the new KPIs we give to our next set of ambassadors will actually to turn around that import-export dynamic, And so those are the kind of issues we are going to be weighing on the next foreign affairs minister and the foreign affairs chef who is going to be coming in September. Most importantly, Parliament has to also assert itself. And that's why for me, I'm saying, the kind of voters we have vis-a-vis the kind of voting we are going to do on 9th has great implications.
Plays a key role because those are the same people who are going to pass this legislation.
Exactly, they're going to pass this legislation. Those are some people are going to be in the Foreign Relations and Defense Committee, and we'll actually have to adjudicate over the budgets that we'll have. Look at it in terms of when you are having the COVID situation, and Kenyans were asking about where is the reparation budget, and no one could be able to answer that. They say we don't have a reparation budget. So that if Kenyans are stranded outside there, they cannot be brought back to the country. It's sad. But that is the work of Parliament. It should be able to make provisions in that kind of budget. So these are the implications that you're seeing beyond just your August putting your ink on the finger.
It's huge. So
it's huge,
Whatever you've mentioned is going to be determined on the 9th of August.
Exactly.
Either we are going to make some progress in terms of enhancing them or just having a drawbacks, as you put it. But Kevin, we are enjoying a huge space, more so in Africa. Kenya sits at number 6 as one of the big economies in Africa. That's a big deal. But come August, after election, a day or 2-3 days after that election, we usually even see the stock exchange getting affected in one way or another. Where are we as a nation to ensure that all this is stable past that 9th of August? Yes.
No, Victor, I am doing my PhD on international law and diplomacy.
We'll scrutinize your papers after that.
Yes, and one thing I
Make
can
sure you
tell
take pictures.
Yes, I will take pictures of it.
Right.
But one thing I can tell you, Victor, is that these elections is actually a do or die, on the Kenyans' image and status in the international community. No, it is not a do or die between Raila and Ruto.
Yes.
It is now us as Kenya. And just as what Edward has said, Kenya's position in the international community, especially in Africa, is very important. Remember, as we speak, the president, our president, is a chair of the EAC community. I'm told today they're having a meeting to discuss the issues in DRC Congo. Yeah. And of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta was given that position by the status of our country.
Of our country.
When it
not
comes
as an
to
individual.
Not as a person. In terms of dealing with the various international matters. So I think the outcome of these elections will play a critical role. Remember, there will be several international observers coming to observe these elections. They will see on what is happening, whether a free, fair and credible election was conducted. You see, Victor, in the international community, once a country elects or appoints somebody to be the head of that government, whether president or prime minister, the first thing which is done is the recognition of that person by the international community. You have seen situations whereby somebody is elected and other states fail to recognize that person. Yeah. If you're not recognized by other states, what will that mean? Those states will not engage with you. And remember where we sit as a country. We are not free, or we are not very, very independent from the influence of the international community. We fully depend on the international community because, of course, we live within the same community.
Right.
That's why when there is war in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine, we will feel that impact.
There's a ripple effect as well as you speak. Right.
There's a ripple effect.
Yes.
And if there are issues in Kenya, like now the post-election violence of 2007, 2008, to be honest, Victor, where we were internationally before 2007 is not where we are now. And people are saying, well, let's hope in this 2022 it will not be that way. Actually, foreign nations are even advising their citizens to stay away from Kenya.
Yeah, travel advisory.
Yes, there are several travel advisories. Yeah. So the question is, whatever we are doing, are we building confidence with the international community, or we are scaring them? That's a question we should answer. Number two, now after the election, the outcome, what will be the effect of the election's outcome? We have seen the deputy president meeting foreign envoys in his current office. What is he saying? He's saying, you know, from where I sit, I have no confidence in the IBC. I think they will not conduct a free and fair and credible election. You also saw the former prime minister, the Azimio presidential candidate, saying, you know what, from where I sit, I think there are some issues which IBC must address. And that's why, Victor, everything rolls back to IBC. Even our standing in the community of nations will depend on the outcome of these coming elections.
Yes.
That's why they are very, very important. And as Kenyans, as we choose our leaders, Article 1, sovereignty belongs to the people. Kenyans, as we choose our leader, let us look at the impact of our choices in the international community. If the leader, because somebody was saying, you know, these manifestos, Victor, which are normally given by candidates, they are really implemented.
Followed, exactly.
And they are really followed, Victor. People just want to give very good promises so that they can win the hearts of Kenyans. But a challenge I can pose to these candidates is one.
Okay.
As you seek that position, the challenge I can give you is that, are you seeking that position for your own interest or for the interest of Kenya and all Kenyans? You see, if you seek a position for your own interest, even if you win, you'll not even have that sense of dignity in that position. But if you do it for Kenyans and God enables you to win, you'll be able to do a good job. So it is upon our candidates, the 4 of them, let them know that the position of this country is far beyond them. 20 years to our decisions now will affect us 20 years to come.
Exactly.
The peace which has been in Kenya since post-2008 to date is what has enabled President Uhuru Kenyatta to be the chair of EAC and also for Kenya to sit at the UN Security Council. That's a high-level position for Kenya. And also our relations with outside world will really depend on, is this person who is coming in as a president, will he be able to relate well with the outside world?
Okay. Let me ask you, Edward, how is Kenya's stability, economic muscle, and diplomatic leadership be essential after this election? Because as he's put it, we are sitting in the United Nations Security Council. President Kenyatta is the chair of the East Africa Community. These are big positions, so to speak.
Well, part of the muscle that we get is not just in terms of the influence we are wielding in these other countries, you know, because of our trade capacity, but also the fact that we have been considered for the longest time an international hub for a lot of, you know, diplomatic organizations. International organizations are setting their space here. I mean, the brand that Kenya has actually been selling out there is that we are the gateway to East and Central Africa. And so you'll find a lot of the international organizations would rather set up their headquarters for Africa here as they can be able to launch out in the country. An advantage that you have been given in terms of our geographical positioning, our sophisticated fintech space in terms of our banking and our technology, and also the kind of value that we have been actually be able to get in this issue that at least unfortunately some people are despising our education capacity. It's very, very good outside there, and it's unfortunate if some members of the political class are trying to trivialize it, because Kenyans are known to be high-level workers. You know, we have some of the best brains that have actually benefited the world, you know, at large, you know, and they're occupying very key spaces internationally. I mean, if you look at the kind of space that Kenyans are actually occupying outside there. So yes, we have the capacity, we have the opportunities that are there by virtue of years of investment, you know. But also, most importantly, as we are saying, is that we need to get to a place whereby the next government seizes the opportunity and drives forward the message, you know. I hope that we will get to a place whereby we will be able to turn around the concrete diplomacy we are having with China to a place whereby we can be able to have a better kind of engagement, not just infrastructure and, you know, that level of engagement alone, but also in other spaces, especially in science and technology, spaces where we need to be able to move forward. And I think it will be how we will be able to construct the next nexus of our foreign policy. Right now we are seeing so much to do with commercial diplomacy, well and good, but we need to move forward to another step. But I think those are issues which are going to be discussed at whole of cabinet level, because also issues to do with, for example, the kind of education you are actually putting forward, like the CBC dynamics that are there. Are they going to make us competitive with other countries? You know, look at our sporting industry. We are banned by FIFA. We have challenges, yet sports is one of the best
and all these
opportunities.
Are putting Kenya in a very awkward situation.
Exactly. You know, sports is a very strong cultural diplomacy tool. If you look at it, you know, look at our investments in terms of music and arts. We have not been able to exploit that space very well. Yet that puts us there when we see someone like, you know, Lupita Nyong'o out there as one of our top ambassadors, you know. And so there are a number of aspects that actually we have to look at alongside the culture, the commercial diplomacy, cultural diplomacy that you're looking at. STEM diplomacy is a very emerging area. We need to be able to focus on how are we positioning our scientists, you know. We have now a challenge in terms of post-COVID. What are we talking about our scientists, you know, who are in Kemri, Kilifi, and these are the spaces. So it's a wholesome 360-degree approach to diplomacy that I think the next cabinet needs to really focus on and nuance itself towards it. Others will be doing, just old-age diplomacy, whereby you become an ambassador and you appoint your fellow cronies and fellow village mates to go to that embassy and wait for the time you'll be recalled back. And that will be pitiful for us. But at the same time, because our ambassadors are vetted by Parliament, I think Kenyans need to ask themselves, who are they actually, appointing and going to vote for in Parliament, who are going to be now vetting the kind of ambassadors we'll have. Because if you have weak parliamentarians, it means even the quality of assessment and vetting and oversight of executive decisions or the candidates that the executive will present as ambassadors will be so weak and poor. They will just be rubber stamped and go.
But Kevin, are Kenyans aware of such kind of spaces that Edward is trying to outline? Because when you look at last week, the Ministry of Interior had a meeting with all the foreign envoys and even people who have been picked to represent Kenya in the next regime. But then Kenyans themselves, we are heading to an election. Our foreign policy, the local trade strategies and what have you, are we in a position to say that we are going to elect leaders, that whatever they're going to put on the table of the floor of the House, whatever is going to be, is going to have a ripple effect in the long run? Are we aware as Kenyans?
Unfortunately, Victor, majority of Kenyans are not fully aware of the ripple effect and the impact of the foreign policy on our country. They are not fully aware. The few elite who are aware of that,
seize the opportunity and run with it.
Exactly.
Right.
And actually now the real voters, who are the masses, don't even know these things. And also, unfortunately, Victor, the candidates benefits from the ignorance of Kenyans or lack of knowledge by the Kenyans on those issues. Because if somebody, for sure, even from their educational or professional background, are not in a position to help improve and advocate for the status of Kenya as a country in the international world, then that's an issue which actually the voters should consider when they are voting for that person. Because these issues affect our country. And I agree with my brother Edward on the fact that whatever privileges we are enjoying, of course, based on our geographical location as a country and also our influence in Africa as a continent. Because when somebody outside Africa thinks of investing in Africa, believe you me, Kenya is on the top of their list. Because we have been able to place ourselves somewhere internationally. And that's something we should actually protect. We should protect our position. We should protect, we should look at how even our neighbors, Uganda and Tanzania, sometimes they envy us. But in the long run, they know that Kenya is ahead of them. Kenya is ahead of them. So I think the people we choose, because let's even forget about the president. Let's look also as the MPs. Members of parliament, both in the National Assembly and in Senate, play a very critical role, Victor.
They're the lawmakers.
The lawmakers. But people concentrate on the executive, the president, forgetting this MP, this senator, plays a very critical role. For Kenya to adopt and ratify an international treaty, it is the parliament which does that. Even before any law is made, actually it is the parliament which makes the law. The work of the president is just to execute, to sign.
Okay.
So I think these elections, Victor, all the way from the county assembly, because even in the county government nowadays, actually the county governments have been allowed to get direct funding from donors. Initially there was opposition from the parliament, but now donors can actually directly, and I have seen actually in the counties where World Bank is directly funding the counties. Look at where we are coming from, COVID-19. And we are trying to now revive our economy. We are trying to revive everything. I think these elections, all the way from the wards, the MCAs, senators, MPs, to the top, the president, will play a critical role, because the laws we make at the county assemblies, the laws we make at the parliament, are the laws now which enable international people, the investors, to look at Kenya and be able to be satisfied that there is a good ground for doing my business.
All right.
Because people, anybody who wants to invest in the country wants to feel secure.
And stability.
And stability. Right. Actually, the important thing is stability.
That brings me to this point, Edward, because as we speak, most of the international investors are looking at Kenya and say, hold on, they have an election in the next 40 or so days, so instead of investing, to pick a break kidogo. How can Kenya safeguard that to ensure that even as we near the election, the investors, yes, they have got their capital ready, but they are not afraid of investing in the country because of post-election effects?
I think we have a case study, and that is the case study from the central bank. And the governor said, we cannot stop banking operations just because of an election. So he secured and gave confidence in the market that allows that banking operations, in as much as the bank will not be open, but online banking and digital banking and all forms of banking and transactions and trade can continue in the country, regardless of the election. These are the issues that we need to be able to look at, that kind of tone of confidence of saying we have put in measures, we have worked to stabilize the banking sector, and we can ensure that the banking can continue with and before, during, and after the elections is very important, because remember, in 2007 we could not be able to have that level of confidence. Those outright paralysis.
It was completely eroded.
Yes.
Yeah.
So right now, 2013 and 2017, we saw that people could be able to vote and continue to do your transactions in your banking space. Your ATMs are working, your mobile money markets are working, online transactions are working. That is the confidence we need to have in other sectors. And it comes from confidence that we give to the electoral governance institutions that are there, and also the kind of public order management that will be able to deal with, outcome and protests and any kind of displeasure in that, so that we can be able to say that any form of displeasure or disagreement in terms of the vote can be handled by the judiciary, and so that people can be able to vote peacefully, continue on with their business. We want to come to a place whereby you vote and go back and open your hardware and open your markets and continue working. You don't necessarily have to feel so invested that you have to be part and parcel of the people waiting at the polling center to count the votes, because you feel like you're going to be, the votes are going to be, stolen. That is a challenge which we need to have in terms of how do we secure that process whereby once we cast our votes, we assure that the IBC will be able to do the right thing in terms of vote counting and transmission. We can go back and continue with our business and wait for the announcement. After the announcement, if we feel aggrieved, we go to the courts, because we know that the courts will be able to deliver a fair judgment on that matter, like what happened in 2017. So those are the spaces we can be able to bring confidence, so that even donors can sit back or investors can sit back and say, the election process will not deter any form of investment. My investment is secure in this kind of space.
Right. Edward, allow me to just take a break, and we'll come back. We are going to pick it from there. But I also want to understand the fact that Kenya plays a very key role internationally. Post 9th of August, are we going to be on the same pedestal, or we are going to slip 3 or 4, even 10 steps down? And if at all, how will we get that position and come back to where we're supposed to be? Let's just take a break. We are tumeanza, all right? We are coming after this.
Kwani kichwa chako imeruka?
Kocha, ni maneno napewa. Mimi niko ulimwengu ya hewani. Kuna siku msungu asa kuproposia hata kama ni ukuoa, hata kama kwa ndoto.
Yenye iko na guacamole.
Nimetoka kwa mbali. Alafu nikichukua kama 8 hivi nishikanishe hivi alafu tutano kando sinakuwa samaki kubwa.
Kumbe hapa tunakuwa tumepangiwa kwa malishwa. Hiyo utakuwa na mesa hivi inakatalia hivi unaenda
Well, my daughter Nuria is pregnant. What? Please. That's why the wedding was held in a hurry. Darling, let's dance.
Sit down.
Fabio. I'm not going to apologize to him, nor to anyone, especially after what that crazy woman Julieta did.
What I hate is the fact that that thing that you have there inside you would be my child.
He doesn't love you. He made you go away. That's why you had to come back.
Would you like to be my wife?
Tell him that you do, Mom. Tell him.
Yes, I have excellent grades in all of my subjects, and I was going to graduate with honors.
But as far as I know, the only student who's going to graduate with honors is Nuria Morat.
Whatever it is you want to discuss, tutaongea baadaye. Sasa hii akili yangu imechoka. I just want to clear.
Kwa wakati huu wa mankuli, mimi hasira zangu zote umezimalizia hapa kwa mankuli. Sitaki kukuona. Kama unaingia ndani, atajilamu mwenyewe kwa sababu hayo alijitakia mwenyewe.
Haijalishi mtoto anaponyelea paja, huoshwa halikatwi.
Welcome back now to the final stage of this discussion. Today we are talking matters foreign policy. Heavy words coming from brilliant minds, Edward and Kevin. So, Edward, back to you and finish your statement you're talking about.
So, what I was saying is that where we are as a country, it behooves the next set of, the next cabinet and the next government that will come to shape a very nuanced policy in terms of our trade engagement and our foreign policy engagement. And that will be able to take us to a place whereby we can be able to, take advantage of these opportunities that that are around us, and we are dropping the ball. Look at a country like Rwanda, which for the longest time it has been saying, why should we bother with policy making? Let's go to Kenya and take that policy and come and implement it. Which they actually did. Which actually happens because we know that our problem has been best policies. Yes. Sessional papers, policy papers and briefs, they are lying on the shelves.
But are we proud
of
ourselves?
Is implementation.
Are we proud of ourselves?
It's a challenge because of the kind of cartelism we have created in these spaces that actually frustrate well-intentioned documents, Any kind of documents you find that are in Kenya are best brains, because we have actually invested in that kind of capacity to be able to build very good brains. Look at institutions like KIPRA, world over acclaimed and respected. Look at KEMRI, in Kilifi. Look at ILRI here. Brilliant institutions we have. They give very sound advice, but we don't implement because of the kind of cartelism that we have allowed in these spaces. And now this is where Kenyans need to be able to look at it and look at the kind of leaders they put in those spaces. Because what happens right now in parliamentary committees when they call you, it's a shame in terms of what they actually look for and what they vet. And this is the challenge that we have in terms of putting leaders who can have capacity to be able to address critical issues for national interest. Not even for their party interests, for national interests, And I think this is a challenge I'll give my brother here as the legal advisor of the Wiper party. After the elections are done, let him call the Wiper members, into a Kamkunji and tell them for the first time to focus on national interest issues, not their partisan issues.
That's a challenge.
When you win the whatever leader of the majority or minority whip, so beyond that, what are you doing for the country? What are you doing for the country? And if this challenge can be taken by all other political parties so that they whip their members towards a national consciousness, I think we will be able to have best use of those policies that have been put forward. We will be able to address the pressing challenges of trade imbalance that is there. Look at, for example, the Big Four agenda. Just one case study. And look at the housing agenda. The housing agenda was constrained because we don't have capacity for steel. Steel production is weak in this country.
So we had to import.
We had to import.
Which
and at what cost?
So expensive.
You know, at what cost? And those are issues that Parliament should be able to address and say, what is the cost of the executive putting up a steel factory? It will employ many Kenyans in this country. It will make use of our TVET capacity, you know, and in turn we can even go back to exporting. We need to come to a place whereby people look at it that they can benefit the country more by the export capacity we have rather than the 10% deals they'll make at import.
Yeah.
And that is a consciousness that our leaders have to ingrain in themselves.
Absolutely. When we look at our constitution, Katisia,
Yes.
one of the best world over, the election is going to determine how this constitution is going to be safeguarded. That is the supreme document that we enjoy as a nation.
Yes.
Many countries copy our constitution.
That's true.
We also copy this constitution from other jurisdictions. But how are we going to safeguard this constitution, legally speaking, past the election, having in mind, or even by electing the kind of leaders we are going to have to safeguard that election, so that internationally we are seen as a big boy in globally, and our constitution also stands firm outside there.
Yes. You know, Victor, that's a very interesting issue because, you know, I've never heard anyone complain that the constitution is not good to them. This means that our constitution actually is one of the best,
yes,
if not the best in the world. And Kenyans have been able to see that their pertinent issues have been captured by the constitution. So the question is not whether the constitution protects you, is the question of whether the leaders we have, do they implement this constitution? Because if our constitution is fully implemented, you'll never see any Kenyan crying that their rights are being infringed, you know, the government is not taking care of them, because the constitution provides fundamental rights and freedoms. It gives actually several provisions which aim at protecting the Kenyans who are actually sovereign, who are the main people targeted by the constitution.
Yes.
But now, as Kenyans, we have to delegate our powers and elect leaders who will implement the constitution. And remember, Victor, the implementation of this constitution does not only have effect on us as Kenyans, but also how the international community views us. You all remember the issue of Miguna, how he was manhandled, you know. He has a right as a Kenyan to come back to Kenya. The court has said, has given an order for him to be allowed back by the Minister of Interior, completely ensured that he could not come to Kenya. Personally, I was not happy about that. Because if the same thing was happening to me, I would not feel happy. Because this constitution grants pertinent and important rights to every Kenyan. And now, if a foreigner sees what is happening to a Kenyan, how the Kenyan law are mistreating that particular Kenyan, do you expect them to come?
Yeah.
The issue of the fuel shortage, Edward, we remember what happened to the CEO of Rubis, where he was accused of, interfering and making sure that
he was deported
immediately.
Yeah.
Did you see any action taken upon CEOs of other fuel companies? Because all fuel companies were doing the same thing. What am I trying to say? This constitution does not only protect the Kenyan, but also anybody who is within our country. Remember, this constitution is to protect anybody within our country. Because when a foreigner comes to Kenya, of course, they have acquired a visa to come to Kenya. The Kenyan law must protect them. When we go to other countries, we must be protected. We all know how the international community, how that unity helped in dealing with COVID-19. You saw how people were being stranded in other countries. I saw a clip of people in Germany, yeah, and Netherlands, where people were suffering, yeah. So what does this mean? It means in full implementation of this constitution will actually have a strong and significant impact on our foreign policy. It doesn't matter the beautiful laws we pass. What matters is implementation of those laws. Yeah. And Victor, let's also remember on the issue of security as a country. And you know, the elections determine how our security situation will be. We have seen how the government has been empowering the Kenyan Defense Forces. I saw a bill which was signed into law by the president the other day, whereby any member of the Kenyan Defense Forces, after they pass on, their children will be fully taken care of by the state. Education, food, what, name it. Yeah? So that now they are able to take charge and protect our country. Yeah? Because remember, Victor, sovereignty of our country will depend on whether we protect our borders and whether we make sure that our country is not affected by any external forces. We have seen what is happening in DRC. You have seen the conflict between Rwanda and DRC. Yeah? We have seen what is happening in our neighbors, Somalia. Yeah? And of course, I've heard my brother say that now we have the ATMIS, not the Amazon, whereby there must be a transition. We all know the impact of Al-Shabaab, yeah, when it was happening, and we are happy that at least that situation has ended. So I think, Victor, for us to build confidence in the international community, we need to begin by having leaders who respect rule of law. And I agree with Edward again on the issue of they need to have national interest at their heart. Because if you have a national interest at your heart, it means you should know that the law you pass at Turkana County Assembly, that law will shape on the international perception of Kenya as a country. Remember, Victor, I've told you that nowadays donors can fund counties directly. Yes. I've had the opportunity of working in Makueni County. I was the governor's political advisor, and I could see how several foreign envoys were coming to meet the county government and discussing how they can help the county government. They were doing that in the 47 counties. Actually, the envoys are doing a lot of work in the counties. Why? Because they are seeing some level of confidence that this, because no, their role is, their aim is to ensure that they also tap in. You know, remember, Victor, when these envoys come to Kenya, they don't come to Kenya for our interest first. They also have their own interest. And I've listened to my brother on the issue of the housing project and where there was a challenge with the steel. If you look even at the issue of fuel, Victor, there are so many fuel and oil resources in our country. Have we been able to tap into them? The answer is no.
The capacity.
Then the question is...
refinery here in Kenya to do as that.
Victor, as I finish, the question is why? Even with steel, Edward, we are in a capacity to have our own steel. But you see, with the influence of the foreign nations, they make sure that we have to depend on them. We have to import from them so that they flourish. So, as we also engage, Victor, with these international communities, let's also have our interest, a national interest, not whereby, Victor... But
we have our national interest...
Victor, I know you want me to end there, but let me finish by saying this.
In just 1 second, let me just bring in, before I forget this, because he's also touched to that. When you talk of matter security, Edward, he's touched on it. Matter security and trade. Kenya enjoys a big platform. All right, we have got our soldiers in Somalia for so long. President Kibaki initiated it, may he rest in peace, and now our soldiers are still in that foreign land. The president is also sitting either this week today or with other members of the community to look into the issue of DRC.
Today, actually.
Today?
Yes.
When you look at that, how are we, where are we as a nation on that flatbed so that after election, we are still regarded as a big boy on matter security and trade?
I think our compact with the African Union, because our engagement in Somalia is under the Africa Union auspices that actually, is managing that process in Somalia. And now that we have a new government in Somalia, we know that now there is opportunity now to move forward and, perhaps have opportunity for a better management of the security situation. And hopefully, you will be able to have now countries will start talking about a drawdown once Somalia has been stabilized. And you see, these are missions that are actually crafted and drawn by the African Union in concert with the United Nations. But in Congo, our interest is because now this is an East Africa member right now, but there's also a lot of opportunity. Remember, the rights and privileges that we are getting, in terms of Kenya Airways doing flights to Congo. It's something there. We have to talk about that. And also there's opportunity for not only our banks, which are going in that place, but also quite a lot of Kenyan businesses that can profit from that space. So I think it is in the interest of Kenya to move forward. I don't see a challenge because these are regional compacts that actually, and ratifications that are actually going to be there. We just need to transition smoothly. And that's why my prayer is that we have a decisive victory on 9th, whichever candidate wins, and they settle into office with a robust agenda. Not just in terms of, manifestos that are just aimed at, tickling and making people happy and excited, but actually practical manifestos that can actually be able to take over the agenda of the day. And that, for me, is important because once we offload these campaigners and, the noisemakers that come around the party space and get serious technocrats who can be able to take charge of those foreign policy and the security and the trade interests, I think this country will go far.
What do you think the foreign nations are thinking about Kenya right now as we speak? Imagine there are people sitting somewhere in a boardroom and they're looking at the Kenyan election with this number of days remaining to the polls. What do you think is running at the back of their minds?
I think for most foreign countries, they work with what you call cooperation frameworks, and they'll be looking at cooperation frameworks and whether there'll be continuity of the same. They'll be looking at the development partnerships and the trade interests and whether there will be continuity of the same. They're currently scrutinizing, each and every manifesto and trying to assess whether it fits with their intended policies and their trade interests. After that, once, the new government has settled in, there will be overtures to be able to see how they can be able to align with the new government policy and that will be set forward. I hope that there will be a level of managed transition in terms of aligning with that, and that's why you need a very strong person at the cabinet level in terms of foreign affairs, because the first order of business before even going externally is to be able to give confidence to the domestic envoys that there will be continuity and there will be a new compact of engagement that also works in the interests of the country. I hope it will not just be another level of tokenism, just awarding people for the sake of it, but actually putting people who have the best interests of the country and supported by a very strong parliament. And that's why for me, my prayer and my plea to Kenyans is that vote for MPs who can be able to articulate issues better. Not just the person who speaks your language at home, but also someone who can be able to articulate Kenya's interests at the national level.
Well put. Kevin, you know what really happens? That Kenya enjoys a very big platform on the market space. We export a lot. We have got our athletes. We export sports, all right? As we speak, this weekend is a huge one in sports in Naivasha. That is something that as a nation we can be proud of. When you look at that, and election is just a few days away from us, you can imagine the kind of interest that the international market players are waiting to see whether they are going to tap their money into the market, they are going to withdraw and invest somewhere in other countries, or they will take some kind of a sabbatical before they reinvest. The president has been inviting so many heads of state in State House. That signifies a very big kind of trust and relationship between Kenya and other nations. How can we just make sure that that relationship is maintained?
Yes, Victor, and that is the point I actually wanted to state.
Now you have a point to go.
And now I have yes. And right. Victor, you have asked a very good question. and you have given us a very interesting scenario. You know, Edward, as we speak now, I'm sure there are people somewhere outside who are not Kenyans. These envoys and maybe foreign heads of states, they are discussing on how they'll be able to benefit with the outcome of the Kenyan elections. So, Victor, these people, sometimes they don't have our interest as a country. They have their own interest. So it is upon us, and of course through our leaders, as they engage those foreign nations, as much as those nations wants to benefit and exploit, for lack of a better word, our nation, we must also benefit from them. That's why diplomacy is an issue which, if not properly handled, may make us suffer instead of benefiting. And Victor, all these foreign nations have an interest in the Kenyan elections, because the government which will come in will impact and determine so many things in the international world.
Yes.
The president who will be elected after 9th of August will be a key interest to these foreign nations. They want to know. That's why sometimes they directly or indirectly influence. And that's why you saw William, the deputy president, going to America, then UK. I think the former prime minister did the same thing. You know, the truth is, these people get support from the international community, from nations who wants to just make sure that their people get in and they benefit. So we must be careful as a country. And as we engage with these foreign nations, we must have, and the key thing, and I think I liked how Edward put it, the national interest must be very key in the hearts of these leaders. Don't go there because, you know, you're getting backing from this nation and you want to make sure that you have their interest. Because, Victor, as a country, we are very rich. Actually, Kenya is very rich, Victor. Even if fuel becomes 200 per liter, Kenyans will complain one day, the next day they'll keep quiet. You'll see traffic jam in Nairobi. Kenya is rich as a country. But now, Kenyans are suffering. Should Kenyans suffer when these foreign nations are benefiting? The answer is no. And the role we play in the international community is very critical, Victor. It's very, very critical. We must make good use of that opportunity we have in the international community, Victor. The issue of security of our nation and trade balance, you know, stability is key. If we have a stable government, Victor, then it means our economy will improve. Where we are seated right now, Victor, the cost of living has gone high. The poor mwananchi down there, and Victor, you asked whether these Kenyans know the impact of our choice, the impact of the foreign nations on us as a country. Do they know that the choice they'll make of that MCA, that MP, that president will also have an impact on their lives? Do they know? They don't know. All they know is whether that Baba has promised me this, Ruto has promised me this. They don't know.
I'm told we're running out of time, but let me ask. Allow me to treat that as your closing remarks.
My closing remarks is
no. Allow me to treat that as yours.
Okay, thank you.
Because
thank you,
we only have 1 minute to go. Edward, in under 1 minute, the issue of confidence. Do you think the international community is skeptical about Kenya's stability and investing, or there's that level of confidence? In 30 seconds, if you can.
Yes, there's confidence. Our courts proved once again in 2017 that they can be trusted, and I hope that now the political actors will rise to the occasion and ensure that we can have a smooth transition from August 9th to the inauguration.
You ask for a closing remark. As you do that, how will Kenya and other nations benefit after elections?
Pardon?
After elections?
Yes.
How will other nations benefit from us?
If we have stability in our country, of course, good business, stability of the government ensures that there's good international relations and international trade is well taken care of. But Victor, my closing remarks would be, it is high time that actually the government of the day, no, we are like in a transition period,
yes,
whereby for 49 days to come, there will be a new government. How will that government influence or help in advancing the agendas which have not been completed by the current government? Victor, the point is IEBC should actually be doing a vigorous campaign on civic education. Let people go out there and vote. There's usually a lot of voter apathy in Kenya. Yeah, the campaign should now be make sure you stand up,
yes,
you go and vote. Because actually, if there is good voting, even if, Victor, you lose, you'll know anyway, with the kind of election which has happened, I think I've won or I have lost fairly. And the outcome of our election will have an impact on how the foreign nations treat us.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I think that's the right way to stop that discussion. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Today we've been talking about matters national relations and international relations, where Kenya stands and what we stand to lose or benefit after 9th of August. We've been speaking to Edward Wanyonyi, who is an international expert, a researcher, a trainer, etc., etc. His CV is so huge, as well as Kevin Katisia, who is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and currently sitting as an advisory of Kalonzo Musyoka campaign secretariat. That's where we stop it at this particular point. Thank you so much for your valid company. My name is Victor Lowe. Have a good morning.
Top sports attractions on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League test matches in Nairobi with the return fixtures set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA, as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August, live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then, in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
I arranged a great marriage for him, the kind other men dream of, and he wants to break it off.
If this is what you insist on, all I could do is take my own life.
You want to die for her?
Samuel has truly messed up. It won't be long till the whole world knows he wants to break off the engagement.
I couldn't care less if he breaks it off. Why would it matter?
I hope I'm not intruding. I'm just passing through. I'm Ferna from Green Hill. Show some respect.
Elliot!
Kwani kichwa yako imeruka?
Kocha, ni maneno napewa. Mimi niko ulimwengu ya hewani. Kuna siku msungu asa kuproposia hata kama ni ukuoa hata kama kwa ndoto.
Enyi iko na guacamole. Lady na lady. Omara, I'll slap you mouth. Lady na lady.
Sisi nimetoka kwa mbali. Alafu nikichukua kama 8 hivi nishikanishe hivi alafu tutano kando sinakuwa samaki kubwa.
Kumbe hapa tunakuwa tumepangiwa kwa malishwa. Hiyo utakuwa na mesa hivi inakatalia hivi unaenda
Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in Juja, Kiambu County. We'll link up with Dr. Joan Ruguru Kimani, a student pursuing Bachelor of Medicine in Surgery. Apart from her studies here, Dr. Ruguru has a keen interest in global health policy making in regards to children's health.
I had gone swimming with my siblings and I saw a mother beat up her child ruthlessly because she poured soda on the floor. I'm the firstborn of 6 children, and so I've seen how my parents have brought me up very well, a strong Christian background, and I felt like maybe if I wrote about it, a parent like that would get help.
This passion will lead to the birth of Exciting Parenting in the year 2016, a webpage dedicated to information on children and parenting. Her contribution towards child health and parenting catapulted her to bagging the 2020 winner of the top 35 under 35 Youth of the Year award.
That's when I actually felt like I was making some impact in health, and that really catapulted me to keep going.
Exciting Parenting touches on diverse issues on children's health that Dr. Ruguru attributes to well-researched information during her pediatric classes and experience parents have gone through in raising their little ones.
I found it important to borrow my lessons from the clinical rotations to be able to sensitize parents on how to bring up their children well in regards to health. I borrowed a few things, a few lessons, and then I broke them down in a way that the common mwananchi is going to understand and learn, because medical jargon can be something else.
Her blog grew to reaching audiences across 10 countries globally. Her outstanding work and contribution played a key role in her name making it to the Forbes Africa 30 Under 30 class of 2022 Achievers list. She received this news while at home and couldn't hide her joy.
I first of all told my family, then told my mentors, told my friends, and then waited for when I could officially announce the story on social media. So you get onto social media, people are congratulating you, your pictures are all over. So with time, that's when I understood that life has changed.
The university's Vice-Chancellor Professor Victoria Wambui Ngumi congratulated Dr. Ruguru, saying the institution received the news with delight and elation, even as she said JQuad continues to provide conducive avenues for their students to learn and follow their passion.
We encourage them to do research in areas which they are interested in. Our professors are ready to work with them to develop those ideas. We do show off our alumni, and especially those who do so well, like Joanne.
Dr. Ruguru has had mentors that have been instrumental in her growth, and through the interactions they've had with her platform, they're able to learn and see her growth.
And when you look at the issues she's talking of, or the issues she's discussing in her blog, things which we would commonly struggle with. She's able to attract traffic, and she's able to explain things in a language that is understandable to most people.
I've been doing a couple of jobs here and there. I've had a couple of internships in organizations in the medical field. And what I can say, I got those opportunities because I had a blog.
Ruguru is set to graduate with the class of June 2022, and with the accolades she has already received thanks to her work in the field of children's health, she is hopeful of an even brighter future in her field and passion.
I'm also looking to getting into conferences and also learning platforms with other bloggers in different niches, and to also learn about what they're doing.
For the young girls in secondary schools, the young girl in primary schools, they too can watch her and see that the sky is the limit.
Dr. Ruguru hopes to hold a position at the World Health Organization in the future, even as she looks forward to helping the children on a global level. Yusufar reporting for Young and Industrious from the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, Kiambu County.
Welcome back, and we continue pace with the conversations we have in store for you this Monday morning. Now,
Kenya banned single-use plastics in the year 2020. This is just 3 years later after it banned the use of plastic bags. Where are we as a country as it pertains to the use of these items, knowing fully well that we still have them within our disposal? This is the conversation we're about to have on set this morning, ban of single-use plastics, with my guest, Frederick Njau, who is a program coordinator, sustainable development at Henrich and Bol Stifter, Nairobi. Karibu sana to the program.
Thank you very much, Doreen.
All right, now before we go to the progress or where we are as a country, let's first start by understanding what exactly we mean when we say single-use plastics and plastic bags. Because as I mentioned, one was banned in 2017, the other one was banned in 5th June 2020. Now one may wonder, if all these are plastics, then why did the state ban them in 2 different times?
The thing is, the single-use plastic, those plastic that you get when you do your shopping, and then you throw them away. You don't use them again, and that's what the government banned in 2017 under the leadership of NEMA, and by then Professor Wahungu, who spearheaded that process. Actually, there's no big difference. The bags that you see around, sometimes they are there because they are used in packaging of food stuff and other issues. But what is not banned yet is what's already you're buying in the shops, already packaging your product. But what is banned is a single-use plastic that you used to get, and then your shopping is put in them, and then you will go out and throw them away.
All right. So then single-use plastics, are they like the plastic bottles?
No.
They are not those ones?
No. Plastic bottles are what you call PET. It's a big name, basically. And there are different categories of plastic, if you want. And basically, plastic are differentiated by the kind of polymers that are used to make them, including additives that they put in them. And that's why they come in different shapes. So the bottles, they're different. And why the plastic sometimes is very challenging, especially to recycle, is because of how they are made. And what the campaigners are asking for is for now the government to go the next step to ban more categories of plastic, because right now we went until the basic level of banning the single-use plastic, but we want us to go a higher level and then ban other categories of plastic, like straws. We don't need straws, maybe. We could look for plastic cups that you buy when you buy your coffee. Those kind of things are easy to ban also. And also the Ministry of the Kenya Wildlife Service has already banned the use of plastic bottles in the park. Those kind of things is what we need moving forward.
All right. Now, from just the park, you inform my second question, whereby when you talk about the single-use plastics, I understand that when it was banned in 5th of June 2020, that was only banned in protected areas.
Yeah.
So why, even as you talk to us about what exactly we mean by protected areas, maybe you can also help us understand why then it was only banned in specific areas, because protected areas looks like it's only specific areas.
Yeah, and also it's good also to let Kenyans know and clarify things. There was one ban in 2017 that was guided by law. Of course, there were various protests from the different manufacturers of plastic, and that ban is what we call the single-use plastic carrier bags. That was what was banned in 2017. Yes, but the Kenya Wildlife Service, through the mandate that they do have, they extended the ban in the protected areas, and what they did in their ban meant that you cannot go into those park, like for example Karura or in Mount Kenya National Park with a plastic bottle. It's illegal. So to go into national parks with plastic bottles or any plastic of any nature.
Which now falls under what you're talking about?
Yes.
All right.
So, but the Kenyan government has not banned plastic bottles.
Altogether.
They have not banned plastic bottles. What is banned currently is single-use plastic carrier bags. That's what's banned currently. Yeah.
Now, I really want you to tell us why it's only protected areas, because at the end of the day, we're saying that we want to eradicate this. And even as you continue this conversation, we'll be trying to understand the effects, not just on environment, but also on our health. Then again, why ban it only in protected areas? Why don't ban it altogether?
I think it was a bold step from Kenya Wildlife Service in terms of these are tourism sites. In most protected areas, mostly they are tourist sites that need to be in a very beautiful nature, if you want. That's one. Of course, if you see plastic is an eyesore to anyone in terms of how the waste, people have this tendency of throwing bottles everywhere. So in terms of protecting these sites for tourism, that was the one reason. Second reason, of course, it's for the health of the animals itself. And there were stories or research done or coverage also in the media whereby animals were feeding on these plastic bags in some cases, and for the health of the animal as well in the national park, that was the other reason. Of course, other agencies can decide to ban plastic in their own localities or in their own where they live, including here we are, KBC. If KBC was to say you cannot enter here with a plastic bottle, that's everyone is bound to adhere to such a rule, and that's what KWS did through the mandate that they do have.
Okay, now we'll try and understand much better, even as talk about the animal and the animal consuming plastic and the ripple effect it has to our health. But let's just backtrack a bit and help me understand, and also our viewers to understand. Because right now the UN estimates that by 2050, that should be in the next 28 years, there'll be more plastic than fish in our oceans, which makes me not be able to reconcile that fact with the fact that right now, as we see, countries, particularly in the African continent, are really trying to ban this plastics. We saw that in Rwanda, Tunisia, Senegal. They're doing that, and even us as a country, we've done that in 2017, then fast forward in 2020. So then again, how do you reconcile that statistic with what countries are trying to do in effect to ban these plastics?
Actually, if you look at the statistics that are available. Unfortunately, in Kenya, sometimes we lack those numbers. But if you look globally, since plastic was invented way back in 1907 there, over 400 million plastic have been produced. And it is also estimated, or research shows, that it takes over 400 years for plastic to biodegrade. So that means all that 400 million tons of plastic is with us. It has not gone anywhere.
Regardless of the bans?
Regardless of the ban, because it's somewhere, seated somewhere, whether in a landfill somewhere, waste dump site somewhere. It's seated because it doesn't biodegrade as easily as I would expect. So that's why then the research that have been shown, including one done by the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, our own here in Kenya. With this plastic, what it happens is it disintegrates into small particles, what they call microplastic, small ones, which sometime, and that's why the research is saying that we'll have more plastic in the ocean than fish, because all of it end up in the ocean as microplastics, and what the effect of that is, it goes into fish, and the fish end up on our table. So at the end of the day, by that time you're mentioning 2050, God forbid, we're having a lot of microplastic in our body. But that's the nature of plastic in itself. In terms of, it doesn't go anywhere easily. It stays with us, not like the way you would make paper from paper, because paper would biodegrade, but plastic doesn't go anywhere at all. If at all, 400 years, I don't know if it will still be around.
Oh my God. I think now it's clearer, because you can really be trying to understand, okay, countries are banning plastics, and you're also trying to ensure that we do that completely all together, not just a specific set of plastics, but them all together. But then one would try and question, if that is the case, then why are we talking about this kind of statistics? But again, I think that is clearer enough. Now, Heinrich and Bol Stifter.
Yes.
This is an NGO with footprints in over 30 countries.
Yes.
What is the aim of this NGO and what exactly does it deal with?
Heinrich Bol Foundation, or Stiftung, as you say, we are a German foundation, political foundation, of course affiliated to the Green Party in Germany. But our advocacy is around three major issues: gender, democracy, and also where I sit, sustainable development, looking areas to do with extractive oil and gas issues, energy, politics, and also plastic campaign, which we are only starting this year. And also we have what we call civic dialogue, basically around issues around human rights issues and also missing voices, those kind of issues. So we like to place ourselves in terms of the politics of resources in most cases, to try and advocate for policies that are very responsive to human, to gender, those kind of things. That's what we do.
All right, so you clearly deal with an array of issues.
Yes, we do.
And plastics just has begun this year.
Plastic, not this year in our office here in Nairobi.
Or in Nairobi.
But this is a campaign that we started many years back in our headquarters in Berlin, through a movement we call Break Free from Plastic. And this movement advocates for what we call global and plastic pollution treaty.
All right.
So, and in the early this year, if you recall, there was a meeting here in Nairobi called UNEA. UNEA decided that now because of these problem that we are facing of plastic, the world needs to come together and have a treaty in place, like other treaties that have been signed, to kind of show the way how to end plastic pollution. And this treaty is expected to be in place, but the timeline is until 2024. That is when it should be in place. And what we are urging currently is to urge Kenya to be at the forefront of advocating for this treaty. Kenya already has shown the way. It's being cited all over the world as very progressive as far as banning single-use plastic carrier bags. So now Kenya can also be the leader in this, in terms of saying, okay, we need this treaty in place to end plastic pollution. And it's good also to mention that plastic is not what we see on our table. In the plastic, we need to sort it from where it comes from its source. And the issue of plastic needs to be sorted from the production stage. And that's the only way you can minimize the amount of plastic. By that I mean, plastic comes from fossil fuels, or oil, or those kind of things. And you can only end plastic menace by minimizing extraction of fossil fuel.
From the source itself.
From the source itself.
All right, so then what are you doing as an organization, particularly when it comes to sensitization on end-of-use plastics and end-of-use of single plastics?
Yeah, currently we are having different facets of approach, where one is developing materials that people can use to be aware about the plastic. We have this feature that we call Plastic Atlas. Plastic Atlas basically collates all the information about plastic in terms of figures and data to show whether what you ask about health, it tells you how the effect of plastic on health, effect of plastic on gender, effect, on marine, those kind of. So that Plastic Atlas helps in that. Another angle that we are using is through communication. In terms of trying to create awareness by having dialogues within the general public, and the third way is that we are bringing stakeholders together through a coalition that we call Stop Plastic Coalition, bring them together so that now they can have a voice in terms of advocating. They can sit on the table during the negotiation of this treaty. And like I mentioned, globally also we are members of a Break Free from Plastic movement that was very much at the center of advocating for this treaty that I'm talking about.
All right, well said. Now, even as you perhaps go about your campaigns, even communications, you know, to speak just of the different things that you're doing in your capacity as an organization to ensure that there's end of this plastics altogether. In your own analysis, do you feel there's really enough knowledge out there on the hazardous effects of this plastics? Why I say that is because time and again we keep saying this is the negative effect of this to our environment, to our health, but you still see people use them nonetheless. There's still like it actually looks like there's quite a missing link in respect to that. It's a multiple of things. One thing for sure, plastic has been a solution to so many of our problems. If you look at it, so this is also why.
Yes.
Okay.
Because if you look at it, the simplest way to package your product is using plastic. Is the cheapest. If you have to package your product using a paper, that would be very expensive, and that's people come from that angle. It's cheaper to use plastic, in the position that we are in. Materials from plastic are very, very, very cheap, and that's why it was seen as a solution those years back, even from the people who invented it. Secondly, it's about because you asked about whether people are aware, is that you don't see the effect of plastic like the way you'd get a disease. It's something that would only affect you maybe over a period of time. You can only relate that to, for example, to diseases like cancer and others once they happen. So is that people, without telling people the effects of this, especially in, for example, in food packaging, which is the most the highest consumer of plastic, and people still continue to use plastic in to heat their food, those kind of thing, and the chemicals will also affect their body. So you can only increase the awareness as times move by, because people, of course, they leave plastic in the most careless way.
Okay, so that we can safely say, Frederick, that the problem is not that people really don't quite understand the effects. It's only that the effects are long term, so people don't see the need to stop using it now. Then does that pose as a missing link? Because we'll keep talking about conversion on end plastic. I mean, for instance, even when we talk about plastic bags, just as an example, it was banned in 2017. But I can tell you for sure, you go to the estates, you'll still see them, particularly from the small and medium scale, traders. They'll still be using it, and one wouldn't see a problem with that. NEMA did their part. If you look at it, and again, I continue giving credit to Professor Wahungu for showing leadership in that, banning single-use plastic. But we must also remember we are dealing with citizens, of course, that don't have enough awareness. I think that's a gap that we are trying to fill, and also where NEMA would require a lot of help in terms of creating awareness. Secondly, is that plastic is not banned, for example, in our neighboring country, Uganda and Tanzania. It's banned in that also poses a challenge.
The borders are porous. If you look at it, if you do a simple analysis in the market, you ask where are you getting this plastic. Of course, they are coming from Tanzania or Uganda. So that's a challenge that's faced. The borders are still porous. Plastic still comes in, and you still find, but it's not as high as you used to see. Long time ago, if you used to drive around Naivasha, Nakuru to Naivasha, you would see plastic everywhere on the trees. Nowadays, you don't see that. So I would say there are still those teething problems. NEMA still has a challenge in terms of enforcing that law, because they don't have the capacity to police everyone. So it's a challenge in terms of enforcement and in terms of awareness that need to be created, that people need to support this ban in its totality.
All right. So before we come to the health bit, in essence, then when you track the progress, where would you say we are? Are we good enough? Are we there yet? Because we can't stop to clap for for the state or even for NEMA for what they've done so far, and even KWS when it comes to single-use plastics. But again, also we cannot shy away from the fact that we still have missing link, gaps and challenges posed in it.
We still have a long way to go. Like I said, we are still sitting with over 400 million tons.
We still have a long way to go.
Still have a
We're
long
not
way
there
to go.
yet.
Yeah, for us to reduce the use of plastic. In Kenya, for example, what NEMA can do and what we are urging NEMA to do, and I know they have capability to do that, no matter the opposition, is to expand the ban. It's good to ban the single-use plastic carrier bag, but there are the products, there are things they can ban. And they give an example, for example, the use of straws. Why are you still using plastic straws in hotels? Why are you still using plastic cups why are you still using plastic plates in events and all these kind of things? There are still ban that can be. There are still avenues where they can expand. Mega produce whatever extractors of fossil fuel, and that's where the problem is. So then that's why the global treaty is important.
So it means that it's actually a long chain, begins from the top, and that's why we need to actually start targeting the issue from the top.
Yes, from the top. Yes.
All right, now let's explore the health bit just a short while, because when we talk about plastics, it eludes people's mind to just think that this could have an implication or an impact to my health. Someone may think, I'm just using this straw, as you mentioned, I'm just using this plastic soda bottle, then I'll just throw it in the ocean, throw it somewhere in the river. So what does that go to do with my health? Where's the link between plastics and our health?
There's a very big link. Of course, starting from if you consume it, that's one of it. By mistake, you consume it, then it will also it will affect your body in terms of digestion and all these kind of things. It has a correlation to rise of cancer. Cancer, like I mentioned, most of it find itself in our body through, like I said, microplastic. Once it disintegrates into small particles, it finds its way through fish. Fish, of course, they eat that, and then we end up consuming that, and that has an effect in our body. The other health implication, of course, is on women. If you want to, there's a big implication as far as use of tampons that the women use because they're made from plastic, and they release a chemical called endocrine something, and that affects also they may have an implication over a long period of time. So if you look at it, plastic has major impact. Like I said, most of our food in market, if you go, is packaged in plastic. And people sometimes they do use microwave, and they do heat their food using plastic. You don't check whether that's microwave friendly or not, and that again also may end up affecting your body in a serious way.
Wow, that was new. I didn't even quite know that actually the use of tampons could have a long-term effect.
Yeah.
Wow. Class 101. All right, now let's talk about banning of this plastics, because we can talk about ending them, but one may ask, for those that are, for them that it's still within their disposal, that which is the best way to dispose them? Because you're saying we can't just throw them anywhere. We can't throw them in the ocean, as you said. We can't throw them in the forest. These are actually the protected areas where it's banned. So someone may say then banning is a good option, but then we understand that also is not a good option.
You ask a good question, because there's no solution to right now to dispose of plastic. There isn't. People might lie to you. There isn't any way to dispose it off, because like I said, it takes that many years to decompose or to disintegrate, to biodegrade. people have always given, I usually call it forced solution, forced solution recycling. People say, hey, let's produce plastic, we can still recycle it. But you're not taking it anywhere, you're just changing the form. Another thing to note about recycling is that out of what I mentioned, 400 million tons of plastic that have been produced since its invention, only less than 10% has been recycled. Less than 10% that has been now recycled. So there's continuous production of plastic, but it's not going anywhere. So I can't tell you there is a solution. Banning it is not a solution, because the moment you ban, of course, you know what happens to the climate. It reduces carbon, and then it affects our ozone and greenhouse gases, and all this climate change again.
And the ripple effect is your
health. Yes, and is your health. So people tend to see those as two solutions, recycling and banning it. Of course, when you ban it, you are releasing those chemicals again back into the environment. So what we see as a solution is to either minimize the production of plastic, look for alternatives. That's one. Secondly is for scientists to find for a way there whereby they will make plastic that is biodegradable.
So what I'm getting from is that there's no solution.
There is a solution.
The solution is just stop producing it.
Yes.
But don't tell us we can ban it or dispose it in a good way.
No.
There's nothing like that.
No, it's not going anywhere soon.
All right. So finally, as you wind down this conversation, Frederick, what would be a call to action to stakeholders, to Kenyans, to you and I, to the community at large? Let people make that conscious decision as a consumer. Of course, producers tend to lay all the blame on the consumer. It's you who is disposing plastic very poorly. If you are able to sort out your waste, then things will be easier to handle. Always there's that. Of course, there's a responsibility for us as consumers to handle plastic in a proper way, dispose it off properly. But the call for me would be to the producers of plastic. I think they should minimize the amount of plastic they're producing, and if they can't reduce it, the better. Lastly is to, of course, support the global treaty. I think this is the best thing that can ever happen. Let's have this global treaty that will now bring the change in terms of how we relate with plastic. Well said, Frederick, and thank you so much for your time and at least expounding it for us. I have been speaking to Frederick Nja, who's the Program Coordinator, Sustainable Development at Heinrich and Bol Stiftag, Nairobi, obviously talking to us about the ban of single-use plastic. A good place to end our conversation, and ultimately, good morning, Kenya. I'm Doreen Arangi Okello on behalf of the entire team. Asante sana. We do this again tomorrow. Have a beautiful morning.
Thank you.
Well, my daughter Nuria is pregnant. What? Please, that's why the wedding was held in a hurry. Darling, let's dance.
Sit down.
Fabio.
I'm not going to apologize to him, nor to anyone, especially after what that crazy woman Julieta did.
What I hate is the fact that thing that you have there inside you would be my child.
He doesn't love you. He made you go away. That's why you had to come back.
Would you like to be my wife?